On the flight home, Leo had his headphones on, the music a low hum in his ears. He was just about to close his eyes for a nap when he felt one of the earbuds being gently pulled out. He turned his head. Chloe was smiling, holding up her wrist to show off a simple, hand-woven bracelet. Pretty, right? Yesterday, while they were walking on the beach in Geneva, they collected a few shells. Back at the hotel, Chloe had tried to learn how to braid them into a bracelet, failing every time. He never thought she'd actually pull it off, but here it was. The shells were gone, though. No way she could have brought those back through customs. Amazing, Leo praised. Chloe pouted. You're just saying that. A wave of drowsiness washed over Leo, and he was in no mood to argue. She wasn't wrong, after all. He took the earbud back from her hand and slipped on an eye mask. Don't talk to me until we land. Chloe's lips formed a little low, but she went quiet, seemingly not wanting to disturb his sleep. The jet lag over the past few days had been rough on him. He hadn't gotten a single night of solid rest. She decided she'd try to sleep, too. But just then, Leo, his eyes still closed, tossed something in her lap. Curious, Chloe picked it up. A wave of surprised delight washed over her face. Not caring if it was appropriate or not, she leaned over and planted a firm kiss on his cheek. Mwah! She played with the red string bracelet in her hands. It was simple, just the braided cord and a single small, smooth stone for decoration. It was plain, but she loved it. She recognized the little stone. He must have picked it up from the beach, too. Leo wiped the saliva from his cheek and went back to his nap. Chloe was way too easy to please. A free gift like this? In 10 years, you couldn't even trick a kid with something so simple. Ethan Jiang was sitting a few rows ahead of them, watching their intimate little exchange. His face cycled through shades of black and white. Beside him, Faye had never seen such an expression on his face and didn't dare say a word. Leo slept soundly. He had no idea how much time had passed until he heard a flight attendant's clear voice announcing their imminent descent. He woke up, pulling off his eye mask and rubbing his eyes. Through the window, he saw scattered white clouds against a clear sky. They were approaching the airspace over Los Angeles. From this height, the sprawling metropolis looked no bigger than the palm of his hand. Chloe had woken up too, stretching with a soft groan. Leo, are we going straight back to school? Yeah, Leo said. That was the plan. Based on the timing, Sophia should already be there. Sophia's picking us up. We'll all head back to campus together. At the mention of Sophia's name, Chloe paused. For the last few days, Leo had been all hers, and it felt wonderful. 3 days. So short, she murmured. Hearing her sigh, Leo was about to make a sarcastic remark, but she spoke again before he could. Leo, after fall break, how many days did you disappear for? Leo blinked, thinking back. Then he shook his head. What are you talking about? I have no idea. Chloe pouted and turned her face away. I remember, she said, her voice sharp. 1 week. Leo leaned back in his seat and twisted open a bottle of water. Did I? I don't remember. Back then, for a variety of reasons, Leo had sensed that Chloe was in a bad place emotionally. To give her some space, he'd chosen to disappear for a while. He'd used the time to visit Kevin Liu. He had originally planned to go alone, but when Sophia found out, she'd insisted on coming with him, so he'd brought her along. Thinking of it now, something else occurred to him. You know, I was originally planning to go home and see my parents over New Year's. Didn't work out, obviously. When are you free? We could go visit them together. Leo had already taken Sophia to meet his mom, Helen. Chloe just didn't know it. To avoid any hurt feelings, and more importantly, to give his parents a heads up, he figured it was time to bring Chloe home, too. His words threw Chloe into a complete fluster. What? She stammered. Do we really have to go? Isn't it a little too soon? Even for someone as proud as Chloe. This was one area where her confidence wavered. Leo wasn't having it. If you don't want to go, then don't. I could just go by myself. No one's forcing you. Seeing that he wasn't joking, Chloe began to seriously consider it. To go or not to go? If she didn't, would Leo be mad? If she did, what would her status be? Chloe was torn. Before she could come to a decision, the plane began its final descent. After a bit of turbulence, it touched down smoothly. Let's go, Leo said, nudging Chloe, who was still lost in thought. Huh? Oh, coming. Chloe stood up from her seat, not forgetting to glance back at her father. Dad, we're heading back to school on our own, so we won't be going with you. Ethan had his own business to attend to and hadn't planned on going with him anyway. But hearing Chloe's voice still sent a pang of disappointment through him. He managed a thin smile. All right, be safe. Okay. Though their destinations were different, the path from the jet bridge to the arrivals gate was the same. Chloe walked ahead, her arm linked through Ethan's, chattering away about something. Leo caught a few phrases, something about smoking less, not staying up too late, and definitely not getting drunk. Boring. He tuned it out and started a casual conversation with Faye, who was walking beside him. I assume Mr. Jiang told you. Leo began. I'm starting a new company to compete with the Jiang Corporation. We're short a personal assistant. Interested in jumping ship. Faye was stunned. Leo was being incredibly direct. Her boss was standing right there. As Faye was trying to figure out how to respond, Leo upped the ante, not giving her time to hesitate. The salary will definitely be higher than what you're making now. The key is less work. You won't be nearly as busy. Bottom line is, whatever the Jiang Corporation can give you, I can give you too. And whatever they can't give you, I'll find a way. Okay, Faye had to admit she was tempted. If he'd asked her at any other time, she might have said yes. But now, Ethan had just returned to the country, with a mountain of problems to deal with. Quitting at a time like this felt like a betrayal. Faye wasn't that kind of person. She could only refuse politely. Mr. White, thank you for the offer, but for now, I'm not considering a change in employment. Despite the rejection, Leo wasn't angry at all. This was exactly the kind of person he needed. He called out to Ethan. Mr. Jiang, for what you have to deal with next, you probably don't need Faye, right? Ethan had overheard the entire conversation between Leo and Faye. He hadn't interrupted, partly because he trusted Faye's loyalty, and partly because he'd had a similar idea himself. But there was a difference between him assigning someone and Leo asking for someone. Power cannot go unchecked. Ethan was letting Leo build what was essentially a new Jiang corporation, granting him an immense amount of authority. It was only right and proper to have someone there to keep an eye on things. And that person couldn't be a stranger Leo didn't trust. After thinking it over, Faye was the most suitable candidate. However, if Ethan had been the one to suggest it, Leo would have inevitably become suspicious, thinking Ethan was deliberately planting a spy. Over time, that would create a rift between them, which was the last thing Ethan wanted. He had to admit, Leo handled these things with a certain finesse that made them easy to swallow. He had brought up himself. Ethan decided to play along. Faye, since Leo thinks so highly of you, you can't let him down. Huh? Faye was completely lost. Mr. Jiang. She wanted to say more, but Ethan stopped her. You know the situation at the company. There are a lot of things I can't handle myself right now. You'd be wasted staying with me. Use this time to learn from Leo. While I've sorted things out here, you can come back. Hearing Ethan put it that way, Faye felt a little wronged, but she still agreed. Yes, Mr. Jiang. Thank you for your guidance over the years. Ethan smiled faintly. It's too early for that. For now, come back to the office with me and hand off your current work. Okay. Faye nodded in agreement, then made a calling gesture to Leo. Mr. White, I'll be in touch after the handover. Okay. Leo replied quickly. A major personnel change, settled in just a few sentences. Leo hadn't even reached the arrivals gate when he spotted Sophia waiting for them from a distance. He had no idea how long she'd been there. He unconsciously quickened his pace. As soon as Sophia saw him walking toward her, a huge smile spread across her face. She waved. You're back. Leo placed a hand on her cheek. It was cool to the touch. You could have come later, you know. Sophia's smile never faltered. She took his hand, shook her head, and didn't say anything to him. Instead, she walked right past him to Chloe and Ethan. Hello, Mr. Jiang. Ethan had heard Sophia's name many times, but was meeting her in person for the first time. She was composed and graceful, with a naturally gentle and quiet aura. The look in her eyes wasn't the timid deference he saw from others. It was simply the respect one shows an elder. Ethan sighed internally. You couldn't blame Sophia for Leo's mess. In a way, she was just like his own daughter. They were just two poor kids who had the misfortune of meeting Leo at the wrong time. A Leo who was determined to see his mistakes through to the end. Ethan had nothing against Sophia, but he couldn't bring himself to be warm. He gave a slight nod, which served as a greeting. It was clear he didn't want to linger. Being here made him deeply uncomfortable. Chloe, I'm leaving, he said. Call me when you get back to campus. After Chloe acknowledged him, he left with Faye, deliberately bumping Leo's shoulder on his way out, a small release of his pent-up frustration. Leo, are you okay? Chloe asked with concern, afraid the bump might set him off. But Leo just kept smiling. He slung an arm over each of their shoulders. Let's go. Home time. Chloe and Sophia were about the same height, both around 5'7", so having his arms around both of them didn't feel awkward at all. Maybe it was because they hadn't seen each other for a few days, but this time, Sophia didn't push him away. She let him do as he pleased. Chloe, on the other hand, seemed a little bothered by the strange looks from people around them and struggled slightly. When she couldn't break free, she gave up with a sigh. Whatever let him. Sophia had driven herself. When they got to the parking garage, she tossed the keys to Leo and climbed into the back seat. Chloe followed suit, sitting right next to her. Leo could only rub his nose sheepishly. He still had a long way to go, but he knew this wasn't the time for sentiment. First, back to Oregon. These past few days you've been gone, Sophia asked from the back seat. Did Laura and the team tell you about what's been happening with Rush? Leo honestly had no idea. Before he left, he'd specifically told them not to bother him unless it was a catastrophe. Hearing Sophia bring it up now, he grew curious. What's wrong with Rush? Sophia explained slowly. The negative PR online is getting worse, and it started to affect sales. The holiday season should be a peak sales period for apparel, but Rush's numbers are really disappointing. On the other hand, enjoy Sportswear. Their sales have been great this holiday. Leo nodded, indicating he understood, but didn't take it to heart. He focused on driving. The two people in his car were his whole world. He couldn't afford to be careless. Business problems could be solved later. Rush had had it too easy for too long. This incident would weed out the complacent ones. Those who stayed would be the true backbone of the company. Seeing Leo's calm expression, Sophia felt a wave of relief. This was the one thing that had been weighing on her mind. Rush was the brand that had started all for him. It couldn't fail. Sophia, when does your winter break start? Chloe chirped from the back, pulling Sophia into an excited chatter. We should go see the snow. It was clear she was thrilled. A ski trip was something she had been looking forward to for a long time. Okay, Sophia agreed instantly. They'd already talked about it on the phone before. Aspen and Lake Tahoe both sound nice. Driver, where are we going? Leo felt like someone was calling him, but he hadn't heard his name, so he ignored it. Hey, driver. Sophia called out again. Leo still didn't respond, his eyes fixed on the road. Through the rearview mirror, Sophia could clearly see his expression, deep in thought. He was clearly not happy with that title. Sophia burst out laughing. She lowered her voice, a playful tone lacing her words. Darling, driver, will you take us to see the snow? It was the first time Sophia had ever called him darling in front of Chloe. Leo slowed the car, finally pulling over to the side of the road. He turned around, meeting Sophia's gentle gaze. Of course, my dear passenger. Wherever you want to go, I'll take you. Chloe suddenly poked her head between them, breaking their eye contact. And me. Go, go, go. Leo chuckled, then continued driving. Chloe pressed on. Leo, what about you? Where do you want to go? Leo mulled it over for a moment. The place I want to go, you can't get there by car. Oh, now both Sophia and Chloe were intrigued. Where's that? In your hearts. Leo didn't drive straight back to the university. Instead, he took Chloe and Sophia to his new condo near campus. It had been a while since the renovations were finished, and it had been aired out after painting, but it still wasn't quite ready to be lived in. The only reason Leo had come here was for a proper meal. During their days abroad, he hadn't had a single satisfying meal. The difference in food culture was just too great. Is peeling garlic the only thing you know how to do? In the kitchen, Chloe was perched on a small stool, chatting with Sophia while peeling cloves of garlic. Seeing the massive bowl she had filled, Leo couldn't help but tease her. Chloe blinked and shot back. I can wash dishes too. Leo gave her a thumbs up. So talented. I think so too. Seeing Chloe's smug look, Leo rolled his eyes. Get away from me. You'll get splashed with hot oil. Sophia was washing vegetables nearby, a constant smile on her face. After she finished prepping everything, she wiped her hands on a towel and called out to Chloe. Come on, let's get out of here. He can handle it by himself. Chloe didn't stand on ceremony. She stood up, patted her pants, and followed Sophia out of the kitchen, leaving Leo to handle the cooking alone. A meal for three was simple, but Chloe and Sophia had different tastes, which meant he had to cook two different styles of dishes. Fortunately, Leo didn't mind the trouble. Before he'd even boarded the flight home, Leo had told Sophia he'd cook tonight, so the groceries were already bought. With Sophia and Chloe having just finished the prep work, all that was left was for Leo to man the stove. In less than half an hour, 3 dishes and a soup were ready. As they ate, the TV was on, playing the local Oregon news. The volume was a little loud. Leo clearly heard the broadcast. Today, officials from the County Planning Commission visited the Mill District redevelopment zone to inspect the site. They delivered an important speech regarding resident relocation and project progress. The officials emphasized that compensation for demolition must be a transparent process, ensuring objectivity and fairness. Regarding relocation compensation issues, officials must communicate with patients and implement policies to ensure. Hearing this, Leo picked up his bowl of rice and walked over to the television. The Mill District being reported on was the one just outside the university town. It wasn't far from here. You could even see the whole area from the floor-to-ceiling windows. Leo was now in charge of that project. Construction had already begun in most areas, but some parts were stalled due to unresolved compensation disputes. Spike had come to him about it a few times, and Leo's response was always the same. Leave it for now. Just drag it out. The demolition compensation was being carried out according to policy. On top of that, Leo had offered them some extra compensation. Most people were satisfied, but there were always a few greedy holdouts who felt it wasn't enough. As the demolition date approached, they had illegally added extensions to their houses, expanding the square footage. Some had even gone so far as to claim the public street in front of their house as their own property, all to get a bigger payout. Spike and his crew had reported the situation to the relevant authorities, but the officials just dodged the issue, playing mediator and trying not to offend either side. They only insisted that the matter be handled properly and that no conflict should arise. The official speaking on the news was a councilman named Lubo. Leo had met him once in the Mill District. Although he was speaking in bureaucratic platitudes on the news, Leo sensed something unusual. You guys eat. I need to go find Spike. Sophia and Chloe didn't say much. Leo wouldn't normally leave so abruptly. It must be something important. Sophia put down her chopsticks and got Leo's jacket for him. We have a class meeting tonight, so we won't come looking for you. See you tomorrow. Leo nodded to show he understood. Before leaving, he didn't forget to turn and remind Chloe, remember, you're doing the dishes. Sophia burst out laughing. He actually remembered. Chloe waved her hand impatiently. I know. It's just washing dishes like it's so hard. Leo chuckled and closed the door behind him. With the sound of the door closing, Chloe stood up and walked over to Sophia, her brows furrowed. Sophia, what's up with him? Why did he leave in such a hurry? Sophia glanced at the news, but didn't notice anything out of the ordinary. She could only shake her head. It's probably about this project. There have been some news stories about forced demolitions going viral online recently. He's probably worried something might happen. The word demolition wasn't foreign to Chloe. The John Corporation's main business was real estate, and they had dealt with many similar situations. She knew how messy it could get. Knowing she couldn't help, she could only pout and sigh. I'm really worried he's going to end up like my dad, always disappearing. Sophia's eyes curved into a smile. She said with certainty, he won't. Sophia walked slowly to the floor-to-ceiling window. At that moment, Leo was just exiting the building. Watching his back, she said softly, his dream is to be a landlord, not some tycoon. Chloe still felt a little sour. That's right. Leo had said something like that to me, too. But I subconsciously thought he was joking. After all, he's the big boss of a company, and so young. How could he possibly give up everything he is now, just quietly collect rent? But Sophia believed it. Just as she herself had said, whatever Leo said, she believed. Sophia watched as Leo hailed a cab and left. Her hand was in her pocket the whole time. Just before Leo left, he had quietly slipped something to her. Sophia, tactfully, hadn't taken it out in front of Chloe. It would be their little secret. With Leo gone, Sophia didn't have much of an appetite. She returned to the table, propping her head in her hands and watching Chloe. Chloe was puzzled. What? Is there something on my face? Sophia shook her head. Hurry up and eat. Then you can wash the dishes. As she said it, she started laughing. You promised him. When Leo arrived at the gaming lounge, he was told that Spike hadn't been around for a while. It made sense. The lounge was ultimately a small business, nothing compared to the work at Apex Construction. Spike wasn't stupid. He knew his priorities. These days, he was handling Apex matters during the day and taking business management classes at night. He really didn't have any spare time. Spike wasn't there, but his girlfriend, Aang, was. As soon as she saw Leo, she quickly called Spike to let him know Leo was looking for him. In just over 10 minutes, Spike returned, with Hankyu in tow. Leo, why didn't you call me ahead of time? Spike said hurriedly as he approached. Leo shrugged. It was just a spur-of-the-moment thing. Anyway, I need to ask you something. Those few households that are still refusing to move. What's the current situation? Spike and Hank exchanged a look. Hank nudged Spike with his shoulder. You tell him. Spike took a deep breath, composed himself, and then slowly began to explain. There are only 3 families left. We had a deal with 2 of them a while back, and they agreed to sign. But recently, for some reason, they've backed out again. Kyle and I have been trying to persuade them these past 2 days, but with no luck. After finishing, Spike lowered his voice and cautiously tested the waters. Should we? Maybe. Before he could finish, Leo held up a hand to stop him. I'll find a couple of people who know them well. Get the inside scoop. Ask why they suddenly changed their minds. See if someone promised them something. As soon as Leo said this, Spike and Hank stared at each other, stunned. No, that can't be right, Hank said. Who would do something so spiteful that doesn't even benefit them? Leo's tone was meaningful. That's why we need to ask. By the way, what were you about to say? He glanced at Spike. Spike swallowed hard. I was going to say, should we use some methods to put a little pressure on them? Leo didn't answer him. Instead, he looked at Hank. Hank, what do you think? Hank looked troubled. After a moment, he said, I don't know. From his expression, it was clear he didn't approve of the idea. He was probably just holding back because of Spike's relationship with Leo and didn't want to contradict him to his face. So he copped out. Leo was pleased with Hank's attitude. He turned back to Spike. Tell me, how did you suddenly get an idea like that? Leo knew Spike well. Though he wasn't highly educated, he was an upright guy who valued loyalty. He had a particular empathy for the underdog. There was no way he would have thought of such a tactic on his own. Connecting this to the news report he'd seen earlier, Leo found the situation intriguing. If Spike and his crew dared to defy explicit warnings and use coercion, the consequences, if exposed, would be unimaginable. Spike noticed the change in Leo's expression and frowned. Leo is there a problem? Leo shook his head gently. First, tell me who gave you this idea. Spike immediately denied it. No one told me. It was my own idea. If Leo didn't know Spike, he might have believed him. But seeing his insistence, it didn't seem like he was lying. Leo decided to lead him. Then when did you start having this thought? Spike thought carefully. After a long moment, he suddenly remembered something, his face filled with shock. No, it can't be. Leo watched him curious. What's wrong? Spike's expression turned ugly. Leo, it was a relative of mine. He came to me a while back, looking for a job. I put him on one of the construction crews. He's the one who told me he'd done similar things a few times before. Spike then thumped his chest, guaranteeing, he only told me about similar situations. He never directly suggested anything to me. It was my own idea. Leo finally understood. This was a setup. They were even using family connections. I'm sorry, Leo. Spike realized something was wrong and apologized profusely. Leo, however, was unfazed. Let's move your relative to a different position for now. The construction crew is a place where accidents can easily happen. Seeing Spike nod in understanding, Leo continued. My instructions are the same. Those few households, leave them be for now. I'll figure out a way. During this time, there can't be any screw-ups, you understand? From the PR crisis at Rush to the current issues with the Mill District project, Leo had a nagging feeling that someone was deliberately targeting him. But he couldn't figure out who. Hank, I want you to review all of the company's recent business. Don't take on any new jobs for now. Finish up the market first, then focus all your energy on the Mill District redevelopment. Hank also realized the gravity of the situation and nodded. Got it. After giving his instructions, Leo waved them off. The two of them left the office. Leo walked to the window and lit a cigarette. After a moment's thought, he pulled out his phone and called Mr. Ho. What is it? Mr. Ho was still on vacation and was surprised to get a call from Leo. Mr. Ho, Happy New Year. Just say what you need to say. Mr. Ho knew Leo wouldn't call without a reason. That was one of the things he appreciated about the kid. He didn't use their connection to constantly try to curry favor or bother him with every little thing. He maintained a respectful distance, almost never calling. If you want me to help you solve the Rush problem, you've called the wrong person. That was the only thing Mr. Ho could think of. He shut Leo down before he could even start. To his surprise, Leo immediately denied it. The Rush situation is not a problem at all. If I wanted to solve it, it would have been solved long ago. I'm just calling today to wish you a Happy New Year. And while I'm at it, I wanted to ask you something. I saw in the news today, are the state and county really paying close attention to the Mill District redevelopment? After Leo finished, there was a moment of silence on the other end. Mr. Ho must have been somewhere inconvenient to talk. He found a quieter spot. That area isn't the main focus. The focus is the large-scale urban renewal that's coming next. The renovation itself is never the hard part. The demolition compensation has always been the real headache. No decisions have been made, yet precisely because of that. Your project has a lot of value as a case study. A lot of people are watching. Mr. Ho, stop there. He'd already told Leo more than enough. Thank you, Mr. Ho. After hanging up, Leo stared at the crowds passing by outside the window, lost in thought. The county was watching this project closely, and it seemed someone was deliberately trying to sabotage it. This was getting more and more interesting. But Leo knew this wasn't the time to ponder that. He had to deal with the matter at hand. Connor, how are things on your end? Connor's end of the line was noisy. Singing, screaming, it was a cacophony. He found a quiet corner. Seeing that no one was around, he spoke to Leo. Jesse Jiang is blowing through money faster and faster. The profits from Enjoy Sportswear won't be available until the middle of the month. The money he's spending now is from that construction project's budget. At this rate, even the money from Enjoy won't be enough to cover his spending. Sometimes, sudden wealth isn't a good thing, especially when you're surrounded by a pack of so-called friends. You're bound to get screwed. You can arrange the investment now. As Leo said this, Connor remembered something and quickly added, "By the way, Leo, there's something I need to tell you. Recently, another investment firm has shown interest in getting in, but Jesse hasn't agreed. Their boss seems to know the Jiang family pretty well." Hearing Connor's words, Leo suddenly thought of someone. Their boss is her last name Gu? After hanging up, Leo leaned back in his office chair, lost in thought. The university's winter formal was the first time he had met Rosalyn Gu. To leave such a deep impression after a single meeting already said a lot about her. Back then, she had come on strong, trying to poach Laura right in front of him. Even after Laura flatly refused, Rosalyn didn't give up, inviting her out for meals and so on. Leo's advice to Laura had been to agree to that much. He wasn't sure if she had listened. After ending the call with Connor, Leo thought for a moment and decided to call Laura to ask, "Laura, what are you up to?" "Shopping." In the mall, Laura was holding a bag of newly purchased clothes in one hand and her phone in the other. She was a little surprised to get a call from Leo. "What's up? Something important?" Leo didn't mention Rosalyn directly. Instead, he asked, "Were you shopping? I'll come find you. You're back." Laura only knew Leo had gone abroad. She didn't know when he was returning. That's why she was so surprised. "At the Riverbend Galleria. I'm on my way." Leo didn't ask if Laura was alone or with someone. To him, it didn't matter. If she was alone, it wouldn't be awkward for him to show up. If she was with someone else, even better. If it was a woman, he could get to know her. What if she was beautiful? If it was a man, he could size him up. Men were the best judges of other men. With Laura's current net worth, there were plenty of guys try to get close to her. Laura was about to say something, but before she could, Leo hung up. Listening to the dial tone, she felt a headache coming on. She could only turn helplessly to the person beside her. "Ms. Gu, I'm afraid I can't continue shopping with you today. My boss is back." The person with Laura was none other than Rosalyn Gu. Leo White. Rosalind was dressed in a red overcoat, her hands in her pockets. She wore a pair of rimless glasses, and the ends of her hair were slightly curled. Her elegant and refined features adorned a perfect oval face, giving her an ethereal air. When Laura nodded, Rosalind's interest was piqued. "That's fine, it doesn't affect anything. You two talk, I'll just listen." She wasn't being reserved at all. Her level of shamelessness left Laura speechless. The last person she'd met this shameless. She was pretty sure his last name was White. "Ms. Gu, that's not really appropriate," Laura said, looking troubled. After the winter formal, Laura had received several calls from Rosalind. They were all about trivial matters, local customs, the food culture of the Pacific Northwest, and so on. She never mentioned a word about work. It was precisely because of this that Laura had patiently stayed on the line. Laura remembered what Leo had told her that night. Though she wasn't sure what he meant, she had continued to interact with Rosalind, playing along. As long as they only talked about life, it was fine. Anyone could see that Laura was trying to get her to leave. But Rosalind just played innocent, teasing her with a faint smile. "Laura, don't tell me you and this Mr. White of yours have some kind of secret affair." Rosalind's words grew more and more outrageous. "I've been following the gossip about him lately. He's capable, sure, but he's not good husband material. Think twice, be careful." Laura knew Rosalind was just trying to provoke her. If she were fresh out of college, she might have fallen for it. But now, you don't need to worry about that, Ms. Gu. Is there anything else? Seeing Laura grow impatient, Rosalind stopped joking. Her eyes narrowed into a smile. "Call Leo. Tell him I'm here, too. I bet you he'll tell you to make me stay." Though Laura had no idea where Rosalind got such confidence, she called Leo right in front of her. After hanging up, her brow furrowed. It was just as Rosalind had said. He had even told her to act more friendly with Rosalind. Seeing Laura's expression, Rosalind guessed the outcome. "This boss of yours, he's really something else. No wonder he's built such a huge business at such a young age." Laura fell silent. She would just quietly wait for Leo to arrive. It usually took over half an hour to drive from the university to the city center. This time, Leo made it in just over 20 minutes. Spotting Laura and Rosalind sitting at an outdoor table at a coffee shop, he took out his phone and snapped a picture. In the photo, the two of them looked like they were having a great conversation. Leo was very satisfied with his photography skills. He sent it directly to Connor. "Make sure Jesse Jiang sees this photo." You know what to say, right? Not long after he sent the text, Connor replied. Got it. Leo smiled to himself. Jesse Jiang was a naturally suspicious person. When he saw this photo, he would inevitably wonder if Rosalyn and Rush Sportswear had some kind of special relationship. The top executives of two competing companies getting this close, just for a cup of coffee? For her to still invest and enjoy sportswear under these circumstances, her motives would be highly questionable. If Jesse didn't accept Rosalyn's investment, and he was desperate for cash, he would have no choice but to trust Connor. And that would be the beginning of Jesse Jiang's nightmare. Laura, Leo said, schooling his expression as he walked over. Is this seat taken? Laura shook her head. When did you get back? Leo sat down, waving over a server. After ordering a latte, he replied, just landed. And this is? He asked, looking at Rosalyn, pretending not to know her, waiting for Laura's introduction. This is Ms. Rosalyn Gu. Ms. Gu, this is my boss, Leo White. Rosalyn had a constant smile on her face, giving off a very approachable vibe. An inexperienced young man could easily be fooled by that smile. Ms. Gu, a pleasure to finally meet you. Leo extended his hand politely, not forgetting to shower Rosalyn with compliments, beautiful, elegant, graceful, and so on. Rosalyn also politely shook his hand, a brief, light touch, but she was amused by Leo's words. Mr. White, you're quite the charmer. No wonder so many wonderful girls like you. Even Laura here is unwilling to leave. Laura was no young girl. A little teasing wouldn't make her blush. Though she heard Rosalyn mention her, she remained unfazed, sipping her coffee. Leo, however, feigned embarrassment. You're too kind, Ms. Gu. I'm just a college student. What I know about love. You, on the other hand, Ms. Gu, you must know a thing or two. Rosalyn covered her mouth, her laughter making her shoulders shake. Calling me Ms. Gu over and over again. Am I that young? As she spoke, she intentionally puffed out her chest. She's not small. Seeing the corner of Leo's mouth twitch, Rosalyn burst out laughing. You should just call me Rosalind. It's friendlier. At that moment, the server brought Leo's coffee. He politely took it and had a sip. The taste was just right. After putting down his coffee, Leo looked up, intentionally glancing at Rosalind's expression. At that exact moment, she was looking at him. Their eyes met. The look in their eyes was far less friendly than their words. Rosalind, you have the air of a powerful woman. You must be in a high-level position somewhere. Leo had no reason to lose a staring contest with a woman. Ultimately, Rosalind was the one to break. The moment her gaze flickered, Leo struck first. Rosalind sighed and took a sip of her coffee. I was looking for a job, but no one wanted to hire me, so I had to start my own little thing. In that regard, I have a lot to learn from you, Mr. White. I heard from Laura that you're young and incredibly accomplished, building a massive business while still in school. Leo wasn't sure if it was his imagination, but he felt that when Rosalind spoke about this, her usual insincerity was gone. Could it be that she really thinks that? Leo shook his head. When it came to Rosalind's words, it was best not to believe a single one. Rosalind, if you're going to keep buttering me up like this, why don't we find a nightclub or a karaoke bar? We can sit down and chat all night. I could listen to you praise me for an entire evening. Laura could faintly sense the tense atmosphere between them. Their words were polite, but there was an underlying feeling of showdown brewing. When she heard Leo's comment, she couldn't help but laugh out loud. Ms. Gu, I can assure you, what our boss just said is true. He really can listen to people praise him all night long. Leo wasn't pleased. He shot Laura a look. Laura, which of my words isn't true? Laura went silent, just giving him a look that said, you know exactly what. Rosalyn was also laughing, but just then, her phone rang. After taking the call, she turned to Laura and Leo with an apologetic expression. Sorry, something came up last minute that I have to deal with. I can't hang out with you today. Next time. With that, she stood up from her chair. Leo had no intention of getting up. He just sat there and waved. See you. Don't get up. Rosalyn simply said goodbye and turned to leave. Just then, a Maybach pulled up to the curb. A man who looked like a bodyguard got out and opened the car door for her. Rosalind walked straight to it. Many people saw this, and gasps rippled through the onlookers. A Maybach. Even decades from now, it would be a luxury car that most people could never dream of owning, let alone in 2005. Just as Rosalind was about to get into the car, she seemed to remember something. She turned around and called out, Mr. White. After saying he wouldn't see her off, Leo had meant it. He hadn't even glanced in her direction. It was only when she called his name that he looked over. Rosalind, is there something else? Rosalind said, out of the blue, enjoy sportswear. It's yours. But it's not a gift. With that, she got in the car. This left Leo feeling deeply annoyed. He had a strong sense that he'd been played. Laura was confused. Boss, what does she mean by that? Enjoy Sportswear. She's taken it over. Leo hadn't told Laura about the Enjoy Sportswear situation. She had guessed he had a counterplan, but she didn't know the details. Leo finished his coffee in one gulp. The chairman of Enjoy is Jesse Jiang. The general manager is Connor's son. The same Connor's son you know. Laura was a bit lost at first, but she quickly put the pieces together. Still, she found it hard to believe. She asked tentatively, an investment buyout? And then you kick Jesse Jiang out. Bingo. Leo snapped his fingers. But there's no prize. Laura ignored Leo's teasing and continued to think. Based on what Rosalyn just said, she was involved too, and now she's voluntarily backing out. Leo nodded. Yep, but I have a feeling this woman is a little dangerous. Laura, however, was very calm. In the end, she's just a woman. Boss, turn on your charm, she said playfully. If you can't solve the problem, solve the person who's causing it. Leo nodded very seriously. That makes sense. Why don't you sacrifice yourself for the cause? Since you're not in a min anyway, want to try something different? A chill ran down Laura's spine. And how do you know I'm not in a min? Oh, Leo's interest was piqued. He stared at her curiously. You like someone? At the mention of this, Laura let out a long sigh. He's probably still helping someone else raise their wife right now. After Rosalyn left, Leo chatted with Laura a bit more about Rush Sportswear's recent situation. Overall, it wasn't looking good. They had already lost a portion of their market due to issues with distributors and retail partners. Although they had managed to stabilize things slightly with their online presence on Amazon and Alibaba, their sales figures were still showing a significant decline. On top of that, the online criticism of Leo was growing, which was also having a major impact on Rush. The boss's actions were costing the brand. That was a universal truth. The only small comfort was that new media in 2005 didn't spread information nearly as fast as it would in later years. The number of internet users was still relatively small. A lot of people were criticizing him, but even more were completely unaware. Television was still the main form of entertainment for the masses, and you would never see a business mogul's personal scandals on TV. This will all be over soon, Leo said. For now, you should focus on finalizing the investments in those other companies. Laura had never doubted Leo's foresight. Though she didn't know why he was so bullish on those particular internet companies, she followed his instructions. I know. After our recent discussions, the preliminary investment intentions have been confirmed. $15 million for Alibaba and $15 million for Tencent. That's all the cash we can pull together without affecting the normal operations of our other companies, she added. Someone contacted me, asking if we need financing. What do you think? Once a company reaches a certain size, it was inevitable to seek financing or bank loans to expand the market and scale up the business. But Leo rejected the idea without a second thought. We're an investment firm ourselves. What do you think? Don't let other capital get its hooks in us. Laura nodded understanding. After seeing Laura off, Leo's phone vibrated. He picked it up. It was a text from Connor. Leo, Jesse Jiang, is in his office cursing out that Rosalyn goo. The things he's saying are nasty. I recorded it. Leo had to admit, Connor seemed to have a natural talent for dirty work. What did you record that for? He texted back. Make a copy and give it to me tomorrow. Rosalyn had said Enjoy Sportswear wasn't a gift. Well, he'd give her a little gift in return. He hoped she'd like it. The moment Ethan Jiang returned to the country, he was swarmed by the media, causing an instant sensation. At the same time, the recent changes in the Jiang Corporation's organizational structure and personnel were also dug up by reporters. Of the old guard, barely 1 in 10 remained. They were either demoted to cushy, dead-end positions or had left the company entirely. With Ethan back, no one knew if the Jiang Corporation could still be called the Jiang Corporation. For a time, rumors flew. The most prevalent theory was that Ethan had been set up. In response to all the discussion, Ethan didn't bother to issue any clarifications. Instead, a week after his return, he held a press conference. He faced the cameras with complete composure, candidly admitting that it was his own lack of diligence that had led to the recent incident. He promised to work hard to get the company back on track. When a reporter asked about the changes in the company's shareholders, Ethan stated directly that it was an internal matter and not convenient to disclose at this time. The Jiang Corporation will always be the Jiang Corporation. Another reporter seized the opportunity to turn the focus to Rush Sportswear. Mr. Jiang, some time ago, Rush founder Leo White was exposed being intimate with a young woman. To our knowledge, prior to this, he and your daughter were in a relationship. Is that correct? You even helped him when Rush was first starting out. What are your thoughts on his behavior? Ethan, who had maintained a calm and confident demeanor with a slight smile, saw his expression darken at this question. He picked up his teacup and took a sip, as if considering his response. "My thoughts?" he said, putting the cup down. "I see with my eyes," he added. "But is what you see with your eyes always the truth? I know Leo. I've always considered him a junior. I don't pay attention to his private life. As for what you said about him being in a relationship with someone, do you have proof? How come I didn't know about it? I know the Rush brand. It has a good reputation in the market. If I had the chance, I'd actually like to work with him again." As he spoke, Ethan deliberately glanced at Faye, who was sitting beside him taking notes. "Faye, how about we have Rush handle the new uniforms for our employees? Their clothes feel pretty good to wear." While speaking, Ethan, as if it were too hot, took off his suit jacket and draped it over his chair, revealing the shirt underneath. The Rush Sportswear logo on his chest was particularly conspicuous. "Of course, Mr. Jiang," Faye quickly replied. A wave of murmurs broke out among the reporters. Ethan Jiang. Was he publicly endorsing Leo? So all that online talk about Leo being a backstabber who forgot his benefactors was fake. At this point, a reporter from some unknown publication piped up again. "Mr. Jiang, you said you'd like to work with Rush again. Have you worked together before?" The question was irrelevant to the press conference, and no one would have blamed Ethan for not answering. But he did. "You may not know this, but Rush has always been dedicated to charitable causes, like supporting rural elementary schools. We've collaborated on those projects. In that regard, I have a lot of respect for him." His words caused another uproar. Other companies would have hired a camera crew to document every good deed. Rush had really just been doing it quietly? A corporate press conference wasn't broadcast live. Ethan had no idea how much of what he said today would get out, or how it would be spun. But it didn't matter. He had said what needed to be said. The rest was up to Leo. While Ethan was meeting with the reporters, he wasn't idle either. In 2005, Catalyst Media will continue its partnership with Rush Sportswear. All of our production crew apparel will be provided by Rush. Regarding the current media commentary on Mr. Leo White, our company reserves its opinion. Catalyst Media also timely released its 2005 company promo reel. Besides the usual announcements of upcoming movies and TV shows, it also included the programming schedule for several reality shows. The highly anticipated second season of The Amazing Chase was also officially announced, with a tease of several mystery guest stars. 2004 had been a banner year for He's Catalyst Media. First, she had signed Mandy Moore, whose songs The Strength Inside and Aurora had both broken into the top 10 annual charts in a year packed with hits, with a sing-along factor so high that almost everyone could hum a few lines. Then, with a few hit reality shows, she had created a number of celebrity influencers, raking in a fortune. More importantly, she had acquired the former Hamlin Media. After restructuring, the company had more than doubled in size. Of course, there were some pleasant surprises too. For example, the special program the crew had filmed in a small town was officially commended by the state. She was praised for taking a crucial step in helping a rural community escape poverty. The Cheryl's brand had become an overnight sensation. The person associated with the brand, Cheryl Jo herself, became widely known. People saw in her a sensible, positive, and optimistic young woman who was striving to build the life she wanted, embodying a traditional American beauty that resonated with many. Kevin Liu also became famous. From a well-off family with excellent college entrance exam scores, he had resolutely given up a comfortable city life, voluntarily taking a year off from school to dedicate himself to poverty alleviation in the mountains. And the kid had actually succeeded. Looking at the data from the second half of 2004 alone, the income of the villagers in that town had more than doubled compared to the previous year. And that was just the beginning. Through the influence of Cheryl's, the dirt road leading to the village had been paved with asphalt. Many of the young people who had left for work had returned. The profits from large-scale farming were much higher than working for someone else. It was just that no one had taken a lead before. Now, with stable sales channels and technical guidance, the villagers saw hope. At the height of Cheryl's popularity, an article about its development story began to circulate in major media outlets. And in it, there was again the shadow of Rush Sportswear. In the few short days after New Year's, the reputation of Rush, which had been in freefall, suddenly made a stunning comeback. Despite this, there were still some dissenters. What's the point of all this talk? Is it fake that he sold shoddy products in rural areas to clear his inventory? This comment was met with a wave of ridicule. Which of your eyes saw them selling anything? My cousin goes to school in a small town, and Rush donates clothes and school supplies for free. 2 sets per person. Do you know what that means? Some brand, without doing any real investigation, slanders another and maliciously creates controversy to promote its own product, and some idiots actually believe it. As similar comments spread online, the fair-weather fans, who were the quickest to switch sides, began praising Rush's long-term vision and accusing Enjoy Sportswear of unfair competition. At the same time, a legal notice was finally delivered to Jesse Jiang. "Connor, what the hell is going on?" Jesse Jiang sat in his office, his head throbbing. Not long ago, facing a cash flow problem, Jesse had accepted an investment from a firm on Connor's advice. The investor's terms were simple. First quarter sales in 2005 could not be lower than the last quarter of 2004, and the company had to avoid any legal crises within 6 months. To Jesse, this seemed like a piece of cake, especially the first condition. The Lunar New Year fell in the first quarter, the absolute golden age for clothing sales. With that boost, under normal circumstances, it would be impossible for sales to be lower than before. But now, Jesse slumped in his chair, pinching the bridge of his nose. Nothing had been going right lately. The municipal project his family had entrusted to him was being delayed again and again due to funding issues. He'd already been warned by the family. And now, Enjoy Sportswear, his great hope, was in trouble. Connor looked equally helpless. "Jesse, I don't know what to do either. Who knew that Rush shirt we got was something they never even planned on selling? Damn it." Jesse's usual good temper was gone. "This is all because of you," he yelled, pointing a finger at Connor. "If it wasn't for you, would any of this have happened? You useless piece of trash, think of something now." He was losing it. Being yelled at didn't seem to faze Connor. He calmly picked up the legal notice Jesse had thrown on the floor, placed it on the desk, and then took a letter of resignation from his bag. "Mr. Jiang, I'm sorry. I'm powerless to help. I can only resign to take responsibility. I deeply apologize for the trouble I've caused the company. As compensation, I won't be taking this month's salary. Goodbye." Connor turned and walked out without a hint of hesitation, even closing the door behind him. The moment he was outside, he couldn't hold it in any longer. He burst out laughing, loud and unrestrained. Everyone in the office turned to look at him. The atmosphere had been tense for days. They couldn't understand why the general manager was so happy. Connor didn't explain. He walked straight to HR and told them he was leaving. Inside the office, Jesse Jiang sat frozen, staring blankly into space. He remained that way for a long time, only snapping out of it when someone knocked on the door. "Come in," he said woodenly. "Mr. Jiang, I'm sorry. Something has come up at home, and I need to go take care of it. This is my letter of resignation." Another one. Enjoy Sportswear had only been around for a few months. Its foundations were too shaky. When Leo started Rush, he at least had his uncle to help build the team. The staff might have lacked ability, but their character was solid. Plus, Leo was willing to spend money, make big promises, and deliver real benefits. And Jesse? He barely had enough for himself, let alone to share with others. This made it impossible for his employees to feel any sense of belonging. With Connor leading the charge, those who had been on the fence couldn't wait any longer. If they didn't leave now, when would they? Once the first one went, the second followed. Jesse spent the entire morning doing nothing but collecting resignation letters. The ones who needed his signature to leave were all senior managers. Only they knew what conditions Jesse had agreed to in order to secure the investment. They had once mocked the investor for being a moron, for making such simple demands. They never expected that they were the real morons. Jesse had no outlet for his anger. Just then his phone rang. "What is it?" he snapped, his voice dripping with impatience. Leo didn't stoop to his level. He sounded perfectly pleasant. "Jesse, you got the legal notice, right? By the way, our legal team has finished collecting evidence. You should be getting the court summons in a few days. Just a little heads up, given the severe losses our company has suffered due to your unfair competition, we will not only be holding you accountable, but also demanding compensation for our financial losses during this period." Comparing Rush's recent sales data from the time you launched your ads until now, our sales have dropped by over 30% year over year. In dollar terms, that's about $13 million. Oh, and that's just the lost sales. Add in damages to our reputation, emotional distress, and so on. I rounded up a bit on the lawsuit to make it a nice even number. 20 million. When Leo dropped the number, Jesse's head started to buzz. "Leo, you gone too far. Your business lost money because of your own damn fault. I wasn't the one who posted that stuff online. What the hell does it have to do with me? You're trying to pin it all on me." Jesse was so angry, he started swearing. He knew very well that if the unfair competition claim held up, and Leo could produce the data, it was entirely possible the court would rule in favor of his demand. If that really happened, Jesse didn't dare think about it. $20 million, not a few thousand. There was no way he could come up with that kind of money. Leo wasn't listening. "I don't care about any of that. I only look at the data. The fact is, my sales were impacted starting from when you engaged in unfair competition. Anyway, I won't keep you. I'm just giving you a heads up. You should probably find a lawyer. The reason Leo made the call was because he was worried Jesse wouldn't grasp the severity of the situation, that his panic level wasn't high enough. 20 million. That was enough to keep him awake for several nights. Of course, this was just the beginning. Leo called Hank. You can make contact now. The investment company that had invested in Enjoy was a shell corporation Hank had set up. The actual controlling party was Silver Fir Capital. After getting Leo's call, Hank chuckled. Got it. So now, not only is Enjoy yours, but Jesse Jiang is going to owe you a ton of money, right? Leaning back in his chair, Leo was completely calm. Business is business. He has to take responsibility for the damage he caused to Rush. Accepting the investment was his choice. Since he signed the performance-based contract, we'll just proceed according to the agreement. When Leo had structured the investment agreement, he had set the conditions very low. One was about business performance, the other about legal issues. If Enjoy became embroiled in a legal dispute due to actions taken before the investment, causing significant losses to the investor had the right to seek damages from Enjoy at a rate of twice the loss amount. Alternatively, the damages could be paid with Enjoy's equity, with a specific conversion rate to be determined by both parties' financial teams. Leo wasn't worried about Enjoy's finances at all. After all, some of the people in Enjoy's finance department had been personally placed there by Connor. That was a detail only he needed to know. You should have seen the look on Jesse Jiang's face. It was priceless. In a private room at a karaoke bar in Eugene, Connor's son had one foot propped on the coffee table, his expression theatrical. He actually asked me what to do, asked me to make a decision. At this, he laughed so hard tears started to form in his eyes. Hank Yu stood beside him, a hand on his shoulder. The way you talk, you're making me curious. This rich kid has probably never faced a setback like this before. Has he? I wonder if he'll get depressed. No way, Connor said with absolute certainty. At most, he'll go crying home to mommy. The more he talked, the louder he laughed. Leo was there too, but he hadn't said much. Spike opened a beer for him. Leo, what's up? You don't seem very into it tonight. Leo took the beer, clinked bottles with Spike, and took a couple of swallows. Jesse Jiang was never the issue. As Leo spoke, the room quieted down. In the domestic sportswear market, Rush used to be the only major player, Leo said slowly. That was bound to make a lot of people unhappy. That's why I decided to let Enjoy develop, let it grow to the point where it could compete with Rush and then take it over. But we can't let anyone know that Enjoy and Rush have the same boss. You guys understand what I mean, right? Leo had explained his plan to them before. That's why they had all kept it a secret. They all nodded. Don't worry, Leo, Spike said. Enjoy is Enjoy. Rush is Rush. They're not connected at all. Leo nodded, pleased. He turned to Hank. Hank, how are things looking on that end? Hank was the one who had arranged for the initial investment in Enjoy. Leo had stayed behind the scenes, never intending to reveal himself in this matter. Hank pulled a file from his briefcase. I had a lawyer review it. According to the agreement, we can demand that Enjoy fulfill its obligations as early as next month. The Jiang Corporation won't step in to help, will they? That was their biggest worry. Although the Jiang Corporation was also tight on cash recently, their sheer size was a factor. A little help from them could easily get Enjoy out of this mess. Right now, Enjoy's main problem was just money. To the Jiang Corporation, that amount was nothing. But Leo shook his head with certainty. They won't. The situation at the Jiang Corporation is complicated right now. Those people have no interest in worrying about Enjoy. Besides, the Jiang Corporation's money is tied up. They all knew about the relationship between Leo and Ethan Jiang. Since he said so, it must be true. Okay, Hank said. By the way, Leo, what are your plans for Enjoy? I want to get a head start on the arrangements. A corporate transition wasn't a simple matter. The paperwork was extensive, involving a lot of notarized documents and tax certificates. Hank wanted to prepare in advance, and also use the opportunity to probe Leo's intentions. If possible, he might be able to snag a little something for himself. Every man for himself. Leo knew this. Among the people here, aside from Spike, everyone else was more or less tied together by self-interest. Leo was self-aware enough not to delude himself into thinking it was his personal charm that brought them all together. Of course, he didn't care about that. As long as he could keep providing them with benefits, they would continue to work diligently for him. He wouldn't expose Hank's little scheme. I'm going to transfer all of Enjoy's equity to Chloe's name. The personnel arrangements haven't been decided yet. We'll make adjustments after the official takeover. I'm short on people right now, so if you have any suitable candidates to recommend, let me know. This was exactly what Hank wanted to ask. Seeing Leo looking at him with a knowing smile, he felt a little embarrassed. Leo just smiled and continued. You all should know my hiring principles. Skills can be developed over time. but character is non-negotiable. I'll definitely trust the people you recommend. Hank understood that Leo was subtly warning him. He picked up his beer bottle and chugged the whole thing, letting out a loud burp. He patted his chest and said to Leo, "Leo, my wife's sister used to be an HR manager at a company overseas. She left for various reasons and is looking for a job now. It wouldn't be appropriate for her to work at Apex Construction, since I'm there. You can rest assured about her character. It's definitely not a problem." This was one of the reasons Leo trusted Hank. He held significant power at Apex, able to decide on almost all personnel matters. Arranging an HR job would have been simple, but he hadn't done it because he was concerned about the perception of nepotism. He had to swallow his pride and ask Leo directly. "Anyone you introduce is no problem, of course. What about you guys? Any other recommendations? Also, I plan on creating some sinecure positions, the kind where you just collect a paycheck. If you have any favors to repay, you can tell me in advance so I can make arrangements." After Leo finished, Spike and Connor exchanged a look, both confused. "Leo, what do you mean?" Leo was replying to a text. After editing and sending it, he tossed his phone on the coffee table. "Spike, when you first came here, didn't you have to grease some wheels? Local specialties are too cliché, and during sensitive times, people don't dare to accept them. But a job is different." Leo took a few cigarettes from the pack, passed them around, and lit one for himself. "And Connor, we need to do something for Holly Chiao's family. Doesn't she have a brother who's been unemployed for a while?" Leo leaned back on the sofa. "I'm just giving examples, you guys figure it out. Each of you gets 2 spots per year." Although Leo talked about hiring do-nothings, he knew in his heart that a few sinecure positions would bring him a very high return. On one hand, it was a way to keep his guys in check. You can bring people in a coast, but they can't take up official employee slots. On the other hand, it was a way of creating favors. You never knew when you might need them. For a multi-million-dollar company, paying a few people $5,000 or $6,000 a month was nothing. They all fell silent, thinking about how to use their spots. Spike was the most straightforward. He didn't have anyone to arrange for. Besides his sister and his dad, he had no other attachments. His sister, Ing, was learning business management from Laura. Once she was ready, Leo would definitely arrange for her to join one of the companies. As for his father, he was taking care of him, so that wasn't an issue. "Leo, singing is boring," Spike said. "Since there's nothing else, why don't we go to Mr. Wu's for foot massage?" Hearing Spike mention the name, Leo suddenly remembered. "How's Mr. Wu's business been lately? No trouble, I hope." Mr. Wu used to be under Hamlin Media's protection. After Hamlin fell, he had opportunistically approached Leo, inviting him to become a shareholder. Leo had handed the matter over to Spike and Hank and hadn't paid it any mind since. Spike grinned. "It's great. He's always asking when you're going to stop by." Leo, however, shook his head. "Next time. I have something to do today. You guys have fun. I'm leaving now. An elder is here to see me." Hearing Leo had business to attend to, Spike and the others didn't press him. They just sighed. That's a real shame. The foot massages at Mr. Wu's place are legit and so relaxing. The girls are pretty too. Seeing Spike's lewd expression, Leo sneered. Leo had been drinking, so he couldn't drive. After leaving the karaoke bar, he took a cab to the Golden Swan restaurant just outside the university. He walked up to the private room, knocked, and only pushed the door open after hearing it come in. "Mrs. Bing, Cat, why did you come all this way without giving me a heads up? I could have picked you up." The person who had summoned Leo was none other than Sophia's mother, Bethany Bing. Cat, he was with her. What struck Leo as odd was that Sophia wasn't there. Bethany seemed to read his confusion. She smiled warmly and patted the chair next to her. "It's just us. Sit down first. Have you eaten?" Her voice was gentle, filled with a genuine concern for a junior. "I just ate, but if you haven't, I can have a little more with you." Bethany laughed. "All right then, had a little more. See if there's anything you like." She handed the menu to Leo. Leo didn't stand on ceremony and casually ordered 2 dishes. "Is there something you came here for, ma'am?" he asked, feeling an uncharacteristic pang of nervousness. He never felt this way, not even when facing Ethan Jiang. Bethany didn't answer right away. She handed the menu to the server. After the server left, she poured a cup of tea for Leo. Only then did she speak. "It's about Sophia." Even though he'd guessed it, hearing it from her mouth still made his eyelids twitch. He became instantly alert. "Oh." Bethany smiled and took a gift box out of her purse, handing it to him. "When you get old, you start to believe in all sorts of things. I know it might not do much, but it gives me some peace of mind. I got these peace pendants from a temple. One for you and one for Sophia. Could you please give Sophia's to her for me? If I give it to her, she won't wear it." Leo's heart skipped a beat. a strange feeling blooming in his chest. He took the box and looked inside. The jade used for the pendants looked expensive. "Thank you, ma'am." Caddy just smiled faintly. "As long as you don't mind. A lot of young people don't like these things." Leo shook his head. "Whether you like it or not depends on who it's from. Coming from you, she'll definitely love it. Such a smooth talker," Bethany chided gently. Just then, the server brought the dishes. Bethany served Leo some food before continuing. "Sophia is a very stubborn person, a bit headstrong. Please be patient with her. But all in all, she's a very good person." Leo knew what she was implying. "Don't worry, ma'am. I won't let Sophia be wronged." For some reason, Bethany sighed, but she still nodded. "Good. Then I'll thank you in advance." It was as if Bethany had come this time specifically to entrust Sophia to him. After the meal, she left. Leo watched Caddy's BMW drive away, looking at the gift box in his hand. His mood was inexplicably buoyant. Although Bethany had hinted that Sophia's father was a very rigid man, Leo didn't care anymore. He walked over to Sophia's dorm building. He looked up. The entire building was still brightly lit. He didn't dare stare for too long, afraid of being mistaken for a creep. He took out his phone and called her. "Are you done with your work?" Sophia had just gotten out of the shower. Her hair was still wet, and she was about to blow dry it when the phone rang. "Pretty much. What about you? What are you up to?" "I just showered. About to go to bed," Sophia said. "Maybe when I wake up, you'll be here." Leo paused for a moment. "Why don't you come out to the balcony and see?" The moment he finished speaking, he heard a patter of footsteps through the phone, accompanied by the surprised voice of Sophia's roommate. "Sophia, what are you doing running so fast?" "To see a man," Sophia replied bluntly. Someone else chimed in. "I want to see too. Take me with you." Sophia was giddy. "Okay, come on, let's go together." While she was talking, she had already reached the balcony. The streetlight stretched Leo's shadow long across the pavement. The night wind must have been cold because he was bundled up tightly, wearing the scarf she had given him. "Wait for me, I'll be right down," Sophia said into the phone before hanging up. "Where's the man?" At that moment, her roommate joined her on the balcony. Upon seeing Leo, her interest instantly vanished. "Oh, he's yours. Never mind, boring." Hee, Sophia giggled mischievously. She changed her clothes, didn't even bother to dry her hair, and ran downstairs. "Big brother." Sophia's face was wreathed in smiles, her dimples sweet. She threw herself into Leo's arms. Her hair was damp. She looked up at him. "I thought you weren't going to see me today." Leo ruffled her wet hair. "Look, do you like it?" With a calm expression, Leo handed her the box Bethany had given him. "What is it?" As Sophia took it, the red string bracelet he had given her after returning from his trip peeked out from her sleeve. It was a simple little trinket, but she had been wearing it ever since. "A peace pendant," Sophia said in surprise. Sophia took the pendant out of the box and handed it to Leo. "Will you put it on for me?" Leo was happy to oblige. After fastening it, he had her turn around so he could see. It looked good. It was a pity it was winter. The jade was a bit cold against the skin. It would be perfect in the summer. The jade pendant, resting against the fair skin of her neck, perfectly complemented her temperament. "Why did you think to give me this?" Sophia was curious. Leo opened his arms, inviting her to lean in. When she was in his embrace, he brought his lips to her ear and whispered, "An auntie gave them to me. One for you and one for me." Leo could clearly feel Sophia's body tremble. He continued, "Her last name is Bing." Sophia hugged Leo tightly. After a while, she let go and looked straight at him, a faint mist seeming to form in her eyes. "Brother, you can't lose this. To that auntie, it's very precious. It's not just important to her. It's important to me, too," Leo said, his hands finding Sophia's waist. He pulled her flush against him, burying his nose in her damp hair and inhaling. "Want to find a place to dry this off?" Sophia's head snapped up, her expression suddenly suggestive. "Are you sure you just want to help me blow dry my hair?" Leo nodded with perfect seriousness. "Absolutely. My intentions are pure." He added, "It's cold out. It can't be comfortable with your hair wet like this." Before he could finish, Sophia's bright voice cut in. "Okay." It was obvious she was happy today. She hooked her arm through his, humming a song all the way to the car. Leo didn't recognize the tune, but the melody was nice. "Hey, when are you going to buy your own car?" she asked. Leo was still driving Chloe's Land Rover. Sophia had dutifully taken the passenger seat, but it was clear she felt a little awkward about it. "How about I get you one?" she offered. "What kind do you like?" Sophia was a wealthy woman in her own right now. With Caddy's help, a host of celebrities and influencers had joined Livewire, driving a huge wave of active user registrations. The platform was already turning a steady profit from advertising and promotions. She had mentioned the previous year's financials to Leo once. The net profit was impressive. Afraid he might hesitate, she quickly added, "We'll put it in your name. I won't tell anyone." Leo kept his eyes on the road, but hearing that, a warmth spread through his chest. "If you keep talking like that, I might actually take you up on that gold digger life." Sophia remained serene, a faint smile playing on her lips as she gazed ahead. "That's my dream, you know. Hey, mister. Big shot. When are you going to give me a chance to make it come true?" Leo couldn't help but laugh, but he kept the teasing tone. "Why call me mister? Big shot. Honey sounds so much better." He expected her to blush and call him shameless or something. Instead, Sophia lowered her voice, a playful, adorable lilt in her tone as she looked straight at him. "On, EY." The two syllables were drawn out, but they were definitely connected. The moment he heard it, Leo swerved the SUV to the side of the road and slammed it into park. "Say that again." Sophia looked at him, feigning innocence. "Say what, honey?" Leo said urgently. A laugh burst out of her. "Yes, dear," she chirped. "What can I do for you?" Leo just stared, completely stunned. The only sound in the Land Rover was Sophia's silver bell laughter. When he finally recovered, he reached over and gently pinched her cheek. "You dare tease me?" Her skin was flawless and smooth, and pinching it was surprisingly pleasant. Seeing her look at him with a pitiful expression only made him feel better. Teasing Sophia was just fun. "I won't." Her voice was a mumble. "Never again." "Leo, that hurts." Her eyes were welling up with tears, and for a second, Leo actually wondered if he'd hurt her. He immediately let go. Sophia rubbed her cheek, then asked him with a sly little smile. "Felt good, didn't it?" Leo nodded earnestly. It did. Her smile widened into a mischievous grin, her eyes crinkling. "I thought so." She reached over, hooking an arm around his neck. "Want to try again? Just be a little gentler." It was such an unreasonable request. Leo couldn't think of a single reason to refuse. This time, he was gentle, just enough to feel the softness of her skin. Sophia seemed to enjoy the intimacy, leaning against him for a long moment before finally pulling back to her seat. The buttons on her coat had somehow come undone. Her face was flushed. "Let's go. My hair really is getting uncomfortable." Leo grinned, shifted into drive, released the handbrake, and hit the gas. After New Year's, Chloe had returned to her normal routine, moving out of the hotel. Leo hadn't been back much, but he'd left specific instructions that the top floor was no longer available to guests. The Starlight Inn was his now, all the paperwork finalized, so there wasn't an issue. He led Sophia into the suite. Finding the hairdryer, he plugged it in and patted his lap, motioning for her to sit. The heater was on, and the room was warming up. Sophia took off her coat and hung it up. She was wearing a tight, black turtleneck sweater that perfectly accentuated her graceful figure. She sat down on his lap without a second thought, her back to him, and began to comb through her hair. It was much drier than before, but still damp to the touch. "Hey!" The moment the hairdryer stopped, Sophia felt Leo's hands misbehaving. They slipped under her arms, brushing against the proud curve of her chest. Leo rested his head on her shoulder, inhaling a faint, clean scent that wasn't shampoo. Sophia took his mischievous hands and moved them away. Then she turned to face him, placing her palms on his cheeks and just looking at him. After a moment, she spoke. "Honey, can you do something for me?" Leo blinked, a little confused, but nodded. "What is it?" Sophia took his hand and placed it over his heart. "First, feel your heart." Her voice was soft, gentle. "Then, answer me. That night over New Year's, what did you and Chloe do?" Leo's heart gave a violent thump. Sophia's hand was right there. She must have felt it. "And don't you dare say nothing happened." Since she'd asked so directly, Leo didn't bother trying to deny it. He slid his arms under her legs, lifting her in a princess carry, and tossed her onto the bed before following her down. "You really want to know?" The sudden movement had startled Sophia, but she recovered quickly, realizing it wasn't a big deal. She just blinked at him. "Yeah, I'm curious." Leo chuckled, holding her close on the bed and whispering in her ear. After he finished, Sophia frowned at him. "That's it." "What do you mean, that's it?" Leo shot back, annoyed. Sophia looked as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. She smiled, a teasing glint in her eye. "Oh, nothing. You're really something else, you know. Chloe's such a proud goddess, and you actually." She trailed off, giving him a meaningful look, one that seemed to hold a hint of relief. But Leo wasn't one to let things go. He didn't like that dismissive tone. "Ah!" A playful shriek of laughter escaped Sophia's lips. He. Clothes scattered across the floor. In his arms, her body was soft and pliant. "She's a goddess. But so are you, Leo murmured. It's a long night. Shouldn't we do something meaningful, too? Feeling his hands moving with clear intent, Sophia showed no signs of retreat. Oh, and what, exactly, would be meaningful? She purred. Honey, piss. Leo sucked in a sharp breath. Easy there. Sorry, I didn't know. How is it not done yet? Eek. Sophia bolted for the bathroom. The sound of running water followed. Leo wiped his hands and followed her in. The next morning, Leo and Sophia woke up early. While Leo was still savoring the memory of the previous night's bliss, Sophia was acting as if nothing had happened. She calmly picked up her clothes from the floor and started dressing, not even trying to hide from his gaze. He'd already seen everything there was to see. They'd even shared a shower. So, my queen, what's on the agenda for today? Leo's clothes were simple to put on. By the time he was dressed, Sophia was still fixing her hair. Seeing him approach, she crooked a finger. Give me your hand. When Leo held it out, she slipped her hair tie from her own wrist onto his. All those high school sweethearts do this, and I like it too. Leo looked at the hair tie on his wrist, stunned. He'd heard about the gesture, but never thought someone would actually do it for him. You've been planning this for a while, haven't you? Sophia pouted and shrugged. I guess. I've known you for a few years, so. Probably for a few years. Finally, I got on you. She sounded relieved. Leo reached out and ruffled her hair, taking the comb from her hand. Once it's on, it's not coming off. Sophia shook her head. Just wear it when it's you and me. Otherwise, she trailed off. I'm worried your other wrist might get one too. Leo pretended not to understand, focusing on combing her hair. His movements were clumsy, and he occasionally pulled a little too hard, but the stubborn girl didn't make a sound. Once her hair was neat, she stood up. Not bad. From now on, whenever we're together, my hair is your responsibility. If you don't want me to shave my head, you know what to do. Leo sheepishly rubbed his nose. He was pretty sure a fair amount of hair had just come out. He hadn't even asked Sophia her plans for the day, but as soon as they got in the car, she turned on the navigation. The destination, a car dealership. When they pulled up, Leo hesitated to even get out. Are you sure about this one? Yep. We can't get something worse than a Land Rover, right? Fair enough. Leo couldn't argue with her logic. This was the place. The sign above the dealership featured a prominent crest, a horse on a shield. They had arrived in the Land Rover, so the salesman who greeted them was incredibly enthusiastic. Their target customers fell into two categories, rich guys and the sons of rich guys. In his eyes, Leo was clearly the latter, here with his girlfriend, probably to show off. So, during his pitch, he emphasized the car's spaciousness, smooth ride, and quick acceleration. He even waited until Sophia went to the restroom to lean in and whisper that the shock absorption was excellent. Leo couldn't listen anymore. You're telling me a 911 is spacious? The salesman gave an awkward laugh. The interior space isn't huge, but the space for picking up girls is infinite. Or perhaps you'd like to see a Cayenne. If this were 10 or 20 years in the future, Leo would know a little more about cars. But right now, his knowledge was limited. In his past life, he'd been wallowing in self-pity at this age. He was surprised to hear they even had the Cayenne at this point. Show me. Just then, Sophia returned. How's it going? See anything you like? If not, we can check out the place next door. Next to the Porsche dealership was Maserati, its Trident logo gleaming. The brand had only recently entered the American market. Hearing Sophia's words, the salesman panicked. It was rare to get such a motivated customer. But why was this woman's attitude so different? Most girlfriends just gave suggestions. This one was ready to walk at the drop of a hat. He didn't have time to ponder it. This gentleman seems interested in our Cayenne. Let me show you. Since Leo was apparently interested, Sophia didn't argue. She took his arm and followed the salesman. Having seen the high-end luxury cars of the future, Leo wasn't expecting much from a 2004 model. It was one of the reasons he hadn't bought a car yet. But now it seemed he had no choice. So a new car it was. Someone else was paying, anyway. Want to hop in and try it? Leo sat in the driver's seat, fiddling with the controls. It felt decent enough. He called out to Sophia. She was the boss here after all. Sophia smiled sweetly and opened the passenger door. After adjusting the seat, she flipped down the sun visor, which had a convenient vanity mirror. She seemed quite satisfied. How about this one? Leo had no objections. This one's fine. Seeing they'd made a decision, the salesman relaxed. Excellent. Will you be paying in full or... Before he could finish, Sophia got out of the car, shutting the door with a solid thud. In full. Credit card. Show me where. The salesman froze when he heard that she was the one paying. He was still processing it when Sophia asked, by the way, you have one in stock, right? Yes. But it will take 2 days to have it delivered here. They'd waited this long. Another 2 days was nothing. Fine, Sophia agreed. then pointed to a nearby sofa. Honey, go sit and wait for me. I'll go pay. She barely finished her sentence when she seemed to remember something. Actually, never mind. Come with me. We need your ID and you have to sign a contract. Now, it wasn't just their salesman. Every other employee in the showroom was staring at Leo with a completely different expression. Leo, however, remained calm. He had to admit, this feeling was pretty damn good. Sophia paid without batting an eye. It felt like a weight off her mind. By the way, she asked tentatively as they left the dealership, should I put a sticker on the passenger side that says reserved for the princess? Leo mulled it over. I guess you could. They're both princesses, he thought. No conflict there. Sophia giggled, her eyes narrowing as she looked at him. How about you tell Chloe you bought a new car, and that you put a special reserve sign on the passenger seat, just for her? That was Sophia, always thinking of him, even if it meant sacrificing her own feelings. Leo reached out and stroked her cheek. You silly girl. Let's skip the princess sign. I was thinking more along the lines of reserved for the idiot. Sophia didn't argue. She just gave him a troubled look. Fine, I'm an idiot. I admit it. As long as you don't mind. There were only a handful of luxury cars at the University of Oregon, so when a new Porsche Cayenne appeared, it immediately caught everyone's attention. But when they saw Leo behind the wheel, no one was particularly surprised. The rumors about him had been swirling through online forums for weeks. As fellow students, they all knew who he was. Before, they knew him mostly because of Chloe Jiang. It was baffling that a beautiful, wealthy heiress would listen to his every word. Now, the impression was even stronger. It all made sense why Rush Sportswear was partnering so deeply with the university. It was all because of him. At just around 20 years old, he had already built a successful company and become a major boss. It was hard for his peers not to feel a sense of awe. We're about to start our internships. Should we really try for Rush? A few seniors murmured as they watched Leo's Cayenne pull up in front of the women's dormitory. You have a better option? Another replied. A bunch of upperclassmen from last year are at Rush, and from what I hear, it's pretty good. Great pay and benefits, plus lots of room for promotion. I also heard Rush had some issues recently and lost a lot of staff. Someone else chimed in. They're not hiring much externally because they plan to save a lot of those positions for students from our school. Really? A student said, his face lighting up. Then it's definitely worth a shot. My high school friend at another college is only making a couple $100 a month for his internship. You'd make more work in construction. Compared to that, Rush is being more than fair with us. Of course, another agreed. The boss is an alumnus, after all. He's technically our underclassman. Why would he screw us over? People were like that. They'd get jealous when they saw someone doing better. But in the face of absolute success, they'd scramble to find any connection they could, no matter how tenuous. Whether the successful person knew them was irrelevant. What mattered was having something to brag about. You could just imagine these students, years from now, telling their colleagues, the chairman of Rush Sportswear? Oh yeah, he was a classmate of mine. We used to eat in the same cafeteria. Leo was used to the stairs. He parked in front of the women's dorm, got out, and leaned against the hood of the car. He dialed Chloe's number. Movie, yes. Click. The conversation was brief and to the point. Just a few words. Not long after he hung up, Chloe came downstairs. When she saw the new car, she was clearly taken aback, her brow furrowed. Yours? Leo had expected this. He tossed her the vehicle registration. If I keep driving yours, people will think I'm a gold digger. Do I look like one? Once she confirmed the car was his, Chloe felt a little better, but a hint of sadness remained. Maybe she felt that if he didn't need her car anymore, he didn't need her anymore. In the past, he always came to her when he needed a ride. Still, she just said, okay, fine. Leo could read her like a book. He reached out and ruffled her hair. I didn't realize it when I test drove it, but after driving it for a bit, I have to say, your Land Rover is more comfortable. Chloe's mood instantly brightened. Well, I bought that car based on your opinion. You have to take responsibility for it. Leo's eyes crinkled into a smile. It's not just the car I have to be responsible for, right? Chloe immediately looped her arm through his, leaning against him. Absolutely. You're still my man, after all. There were plenty of people outside the dormitory, but Chloe didn't care about their curious gazes. Let them look. Get in. Leo opened the passenger door for her. When Chloe saw the cartoonish sticker on the dashboard that read, reserved for the idiot, her eyebrow twitched. She glared at Leo. Leo, what is this? Leo didn't care. He walked around to the driver's side. It means what you think it means. Or you could sit in the back. Chloe was fuming. She bit her lip, but got in anyway. She and Sophia were about the same height, so she didn't need to adjust the seat. But after she settled in, she looked around. Sophia's been in here, hasn't she? She asked. Leo didn't even look at her. You talk too much. She knew that was a yes. She pouted and turned to look out the window, clearly upset. Leo drove carefully on campus. Once they were off school grounds, he finally asked her, "No trouble since you came back, right?" When Ethan Jiang first got into trouble, reporters had swarmed Chloe, trying to get a story. To shield her from the media storm and keep the Jiang family from bothering her, Leo had her take a break from school and stay at the hotel. Now, everything was back to normal. Chloe shook her head gently. "You guys took care of everything, and the university beefed up security. What trouble could there be?" "Well, if I have to name one thing." Leo was curious. "Oh, what's that?" Chloe kept her gaze fixed out the window, the wind rushing past. Even over the noise, Leo heard her sigh. "A lot of people are asking me if we broke up," she said. "And they're asking what kind of girls you like." Leo thought it would be something serious. Just that? Still, the University of Oregon had a lot of attractive women. Being the object of their affection was a little flattering. "So what did you say?" Chloe gritted her teeth, shooting him a wary look. Her reply was sharp and decisive. "I told them to give up hope." Leo burst out laughing. That was such a Chloe answer. Hearing him laugh, Chloe stared at him. Her lips curved into a smile that felt cold. "What's so funny? Are you saying I was wrong?" Leo shrugged, his eyes on the road. "You weren't wrong." He paused. "I'm just asking, purely out of curiosity. Were any of them cute?" Chloe's teeth ached with frustration. If he wasn't driving 80 miles an hour, she might have just bitten him. She pouted, crossing her arms. Leo just smiled and didn't press the issue. He pulled into a mall parking garage and turned to look at her. "Hey, you still mad?" "Oomph." Chloe turned her head away haughtily. Leo didn't try to coax her. He just opened his door and got out, deliberately walking around to the back of the car. When Chloe saw him disappear behind the vehicle, she quickly turned to look, but the back seats and rear window blocked her view. Just as she was starting to feel anxious, Leo reappeared. He yanked open her passenger door, trapping her inside. He leaned down, looking at her beautiful face, and tilted her chin up with his hand. "Come on, don't be mad. I'm taking you to a movie." Chloe didn't flinch. Their eyes met. "Then promise me you won't pay attention to those other girls," she said stubbornly. Fine, I promise," Leo agreed, nodding. What he was actually thinking, well, only he knew that. Leo had no ulterior motives this time. He genuinely just planned to take Chloe to a movie. He even chose a showing that wasn't late at night. The theater was mostly empty. He had no idea what the movie was about. He spent the whole time yawning. Chloe leaned against him, eating popcorn. Of course, she didn't lift a finger herself. Leo had to feed her every piece, which was the main reason he couldn't fall asleep. Just as he was about to nod off, he felt a warm, moist sensation on his cheek. He wiped away the saliva, catching a faint scent of popcorn. He turned his head. Chloe was grinning at him, even pointing to her own cheek. The message was clear. "I kissed you. Now you have to kiss me back." "No." Leo refused flatly. Chloe's face fell. She looked at him with teary eyes. "You made me mad, and you're not even going to make it up to me? How did I make you mad?" Leo protested. Chloe started counting on her fingers. "You deliberately annoyed me in the car. You didn't text me back last night, and you bought a car without telling me." The list was getting more and more ridiculous. While she was still talking, he leaned over and gave her a quick peck on the cheek. "There. Happy." Chloe pouted, her voice laced with grievance. It was a little half-hearted, but I guess it counts as a kiss. Then, seeing Leo lean back in his seat with no intention of doing anything more, she found a burst of courage. She took his hand and placed it on her thigh, giving him a look. She'd heard that couples were supposed to be all over each other in a movie theater. But Leo was acting like a clueless bystander. Leo felt her small movement. He gave her leg a gentle squeeze, but that was it. A movie theater was a public place. It might be dark, but the security cameras were very much on. He didn't want their movie date to become someone else's little movie. Still, he leaned closer to her, inhaling her faint, pleasant scent. It was refreshing. "I'll take you back to campus after this," he said. "I have things to do later." Chloe blinked, a flicker of disappointment in her eyes. She mumbled a dejected "oh." Leo placed a hand on her shoulder, as if to comfort her. In reality, he was wiping the residual popcorn grease from his fingers on her jacket. "Breaks are coming up," he said righteously. "I have to take care of some company stuff. Once that's done, we can head north to see the snow." Seeing the snow with Leo was one of Chloe's long-held dreams. She had been planning it for ages, even offering to bring Sophia along just to make sure he'd go. At his words, all her resentment vanished. She nodded vigorously. "Okay." Leo, having successfully cleaned his hand, nodded back. It was only 7 o'clock when the movie ended. Still early. Leo didn't even stay for dinner, just dropped Chloe back at her dorm. The only reason he'd taken her to the movie today was probably out of a guilty conscience. Sophia now had a piece pendant identical to his, and that was something he couldn't just give to Chloe alone. Since he couldn't give her a gift, a movie would have to do. Don't work too hard. Make sure you rest, Chloe said before getting out of the car in front of her dorm. Leo nodded repeatedly. Okay, I'll listen to you. After a long, lingering hug, Chloe reluctantly got out of the car, waving as he drove away. Only after his car was out of sight did she turn and head back inside. She was wearing a white down jacket. The faint yellow grease stain on her shoulder was particularly noticeable. As soon as she walked in, Stacy saw it. Chloe, what's on your shoulder? Chloe was confused. She took off the jacket to look. Leo! A shout echoed from the dorm. It sounded like anger, but it was closer to a playful complaint. You bullied me again. Leo was already long gone, driving to the Galaxy Gaming Lounge. Under the management of Spike's girlfriend, the gaming lounge was booming. They hosted regular esports tournaments with generous cash prizes, attracting gaming addicts from neighboring cities. Spike had even mentioned forming an esports team, named Galaxy, of course, to boost the lounge's reputation and facilitate opening a chain of locations. Leo had been surprised at the time. Spike had changed. He now understood how to use endorsements and advertising to promote his brand. For now, however, Leo had said no. The time wasn't right. Maybe in a few years. Spike, of course, had no objections. He was self-aware enough to know that everything he had, he owed to Leo. Following Leo's lead was always the right move. Leo, you're here, Spike said, standing up from the main chair in the office and offering it to Leo. He handed him a proposal. Look, Galaxy can't handle the demand anymore. We're planning to open 2 more branches nearby. Here are the preliminary locations. Take a look. Leo glanced at it. You handle it. In 2005, there was no way a gaming lounge near University campus would make money. But he added a word of caution. Just make sure the place is safe. Spike grinned. Don't you worry. Outside of the university itself, I can guarantee this is the safest place around. Leo shot him a look, wanted to say that's not what he meant. But before he could, Spike caught on. All the equipment has been inspected. The fire safety and electrical work were done by certified contractors. No problems at all. Leo knew Spike was competent, so he didn't press it. He wasn't here for that. He turned to Hank, who was also in the office. Those families still refusing to move? Hank nodded. Yeah, their demands are getting more and more outrageous. His face was dark, clearly frustrated by the holdouts. How much land would we waste if we have to build around them? If the people didn't want to move, out of some deep-seated attachment to their homes, Leo couldn't force them. He'd have to find a workaround. Hank handed him a set of documents. It's not a lot of land, but I'm worried about the optics. The city and the county are all watching us. I've been pulled aside a few times in meetings about this. Councilman Liu, this is our company's chairman, Leo White. For a moment, Liu Bo stared at Leo, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. Hearing Hank's introduction, it clicked. Leo White, he exclaimed, standing up from his desk in disbelief. He walked over, extending a hand. You're the owner of Apex Construction? Leo shook his hand and offered him a bag of fruit he'd brought. Uncle Lou, there's no need for titles. I'm just here as a junior to pay you a visit. A wide smile spread across Liu Bo's face. He accepted the gift without ceremony. I don't accept gifts from just anyone, but since it's from you, I'll happily take it. After all, you did call me Uncle Lou, didn't you? He carried the fruit and waved for them to sit. Please sit. What brings you here today? After they were seated, Liu Bo personally brewed them 2 cups of tea and sat down beside them, completely devoid of any official airs. Leo sat with his fingers interlaced over his knees, a steady smile on his face. He said nothing. Hank spoke first. Councilman Liu, it's about those few residents in the Mill District who are still refusing to relocate. We were hoping to get your opinion on the matter. Liu Bo glanced at Leo. Didn't he say he was just here to pay a visit? Why are we talking about work? Leo shrugged. Uncle Lou, don't mind me. Work is his business. I just wanted to come and see you. Liu Bo thought to himself. I'd have to be a fool to believe that. Leo was obviously here to lend Hank some weight. Sometimes, Hank's words just didn't carry enough authority. Leaning back on the sofa, Liu Bo looked at Leo with amusement. That time I ran into you in Mill District, that wasn't a coincidence, was it? Leo smiled knowingly. The first time they'd met was indeed in the Mill District. Back then, the project was still in the Hanlon Group's hands, and they were using some shady tactics to force residents to sign. Of course, at the time, Leo had been trying to wrest the project from Hanlon, so he'd helped stir the pot a bit, working with Ethan Jiang to escalate the conflict. When things got out of hand, Liu Bo had stepped in to mediate. Back then, he had thought Leo was just an ordinary student with good organizational skills. He never would have imagined. But Leo wasn't about to admit to any of that. I was really just passing by. It was a coincidence. Liu Bo knew he wouldn't get the truth out of Leo, so he wisely dropped the subject. You've seen the redevelopment plan for the Mill District. It's going to be a large commercial hub with a park. The design was your company's. If you wanted to make changes, he trailed off. Hank understood. He pulled out a new blueprint. We had our designers look at it. These 3 households are on the very edge. That's why they've managed to fence off so much land that wasn't theirs to begin with. Rerouting the park around them wouldn't have a major impact. Please take a look. On the new blueprint, Hank showed a comparison between the old and new designs. They looked virtually identical. Lubo glanced at it briefly. The original design was approved by the higher-ups. It can't be changed just like that. I can submit an application, but whether it's approved is up to them. As he spoke, he kept his eyes on Leo, knowing he was the one in charge. But Leo remained silent, just as he'd said. He was only here to visit. Hank picked up the conversation. Thank you, Councilman. We will respect the leadership's decision and strictly follow all requirements. After a string of official pleasantries, Hank stood up to leave. I know you're busy, so we won't take up any more of your time. We'll leave the matter of the revised plan in your hands. Lubo waved a hand. Take care, mister. You. I won't see you out. Of course, of course. Hank left, but Leo didn't move. Should I call you Leo or Chairman White? Lubo asked with a half-smile. Leo sat up straight. Of course it's Leo. If I were Chairman White, I would have left with him. Lubo chuckled. This kid was interesting. He relaxed. Leo, you really are full of surprises. So young, and already the boss of such a big company. Leo sipped his tea, looking unconcerned. If that surprises you, then I'd better not mention my other companies. Lubo, who was also taking a sip of water, choked and started coughing violently. Cough, cough. Leo, stop teasing your Uncle Lou. Why are you really here today? Though they were calling each other uncle and nephew, Lubo was well aware that this was only their second meeting. They barely knew each other. Leo wouldn't come looking for him for no reason. Leo was direct. Uncle Lou, I need you to leak some rumors about the new plan. To be honest with you, we were close to a deal with those 3 families, but they all changed their minds for some reason. Hearing Leo talk business was, strangely, a relief for Lubo. I'll do my best. After leaving Lubo's office, Leo's pocket felt a little lighter. It seemed something had fallen out on the sofa. But it wasn't important. He had no intention of getting it back. Hank was waiting for him in the parking lot. Leo, should I take you back to campus? Leo was in the back seat. Hank's car wasn't as comfortable as his Porsche. He thought for a moment. Let's go take a look at the Mill District. It's all demolition over there right now, Hank said. Just rubble and dust, nothing to see. This was the difference between Hank and Spike. Spike would never say things like that. But Leo knew Hank meant well. Let's go. Didn't you say those 3 families are sitting outside their houses all day yelling about how we're thieves? I want to see the show. Seeing that Leo was serious, Hank nodded. Okay, should I get a few guys to go with you? Leo refused without a second thought. No need. This is a civilized society. It's not like they're going to rob and murder me, right? They're just ordinary people. Besides, I'm just there to watch the drama. Hank didn't argue. He trusted that Leo had his reasons. Leo had Hank pull over at the entrance to the district. Hank, you go take care of your business. The market is almost finished, and there's a lot to prepare. Keep a close eye on it. After months of work, the market at Mill District project was nearing completion. It would be ready to open after the spring festival. Even though only the sign had been put up, it had already attracted a lot of onlookers. The foot traffic Leo had engineered was starting to pay off. The area around the market was becoming a popular gathering spot for college students. It was easy to imagine that, as long as there were no major scandals, the market would be a massive success upon opening. To prevent such incidents, Leo had set very strict requirements for the vendors moving in. Hank knew how much this project meant to Leo. All the final inspections are done, and we're starting on the interior decorations. I was planning to take the vendors to see their spaces in a couple of days. Leo trusted Hank's work ethic, so he wasn't worried. The Mill District redevelopment was in full swing. Most of the old houses had been torn down, leaving only a small section standing, the walls marked with large demolished signs. The noise of machinery was deafening, and dust filled the air. Fences had been put up, but they were more for blocking the view than the dust. Fortunately, in this era, no one really cared about that. The few remaining houses were on the outskirts of the construction site, separated by the fence. They weren't having a good time either. The construction was on a tight schedule, running at least 15 or 16 hours a day. It was impossible to live comfortably in that environment. When Leo arrived, 2 of the houses had people sitting out front, seemingly unfazed by the winter chill. Suddenly, Leo felt something bump into him from behind. Before he could react, he heard a small oops. He turned to see a little girl, about 4 or 5 years old. The collision had knocked her to the ground. She didn't cry, just stood up and said in a tiny voice, "Sorry." "It's okay," Leo said with a smile. The little girl rubbed her bottom, then squatted down to pick up the sunflower seeds scattered on the ground. Only then did Leo notice the small bag in her hand. It seemed the collision had sent her snacks flying. Leo squatted down to help her. "Thank you," the little girl said politely. She was clean and neat, not messy like other kids. Her hair was in several small braids, and her eyes were huge. Her face was fair and chubby, full of collagen. Leo couldn't resist reaching out to pat her head. "Do you live here?" As he stroked her hair, she didn't react much. But when he asked his question, she instantly became wary. She looked at him for a moment, then, without a word, scampered off toward an old house. An old woman in a floral padded jacket was sitting at the entrance. She had been watching Leo ever since he arrived, taking in his every move. The little girl ran to her and threw herself in her arms, then turned to peek timidly at Leo. Leo, who had been squatting, slowly stood up, dusted off his hands, and walked toward the old woman. "Hello, ma'am." The old woman glanced at him, her face grim, and didn't respond. Leo had few virtues, but being thick-skinned was one of them. He pulled over a nearby stool and sat down. "Ma'am, why is everything being torn down around here? What are they building? The last time I was here, this place was full of food stalls." The old woman still didn't speak, but the little girl gave him another look. Leo wasn't in a hurry. He had plenty of time. He'd just sit for a while. Spike had briefed him on the remaining residents. This old woman was supposedly the most reasonable. The only reason she hadn't moved was because of her granddaughter. The girl was a pitiful case, both parents gone, leaving only her grandmother. The woman knew she was old and couldn't earn money anymore. Her only hope was to get a large sum from the demolition to provide for her granddaughter after she was gone. Leo rested his chin on his hands, watching a nearby excavator tear down a wall. Sometimes, watching an excavator work was strangely therapeutic. Seeing that Leo wasn't leaving, the little girl grew a bit bolder. She slipped out of her grandmother's embrace and offered Leo a handful of sunflower seeds. "Thank you." When she heard his thanks, she brought him another handful. "Thank you." The little girl bit her lip, looking troubled. After a moment's hesitation, she reluctantly gave him another handful. As the pile of seeds in his hands grew, Leo was first baffled, then amused. He kept saying thank you, and the little girl just kept giving him more. Finally, she looked at him with a pitiful expression. "Teach, they're all gone." Leo reached out and stroked her head. He offered her a shelled sunflower seed from his own hand. "Want one?" The little girl wiped a bit of drool from her mouth and stubbornly shook her head. She ran behind her grandmother, peeking out at him. Leo put on what he hoped was his kindest smile. Can you tell, Big Brother, what your name is?" The little girl looked at her grandmother. Seeing no reaction, she said shyly, "Coco." "My name is Coco." "That's a beautiful name," Leo praised. "I love to eat all kinds of cocoa." Coco's lip trembled. "No, don't eat cocoa." Seeing her earnest, innocent face, Leo started to think that maybe raising a couple of kids wasn't such an unbearable idea after all. He was afraid he'd make her cry if he kept teasing her, so he decided to stop being the bad guy. "Coco, what do you like to eat? I'll bring some for you next time." Before Coco could answer, her grandmother finally spoke. "That won't be necessary. Young man, if you're here to be another lobbyist, you can save your breath. My granddaughter and I aren't worth this much trouble. If you really have a good heart, then just agree to my terms." The old woman was sharp. She'd had countless people come to get her to sign, hearing every kind and cruel word imaginable. With the entire area under construction, it was unlikely someone would just happen to be passing by and strike up a conversation. Leo held up his hands. "Ma'am, I'm not here to ask you to sign anything." Hearing this, the old woman gave him a look and said nothing more. She closed her eyes and leaned back in her rocking chair, resting. Leo didn't push his luck. He turned his attention back to Coco. "Coco, are you cold?" Coco, hiding behind her grandmother, nodded. It wasn't just Coco who was cold. Leo was too. "Want to warm up by a fire?" The old street was demolished, but there was a large open space in front of the grandmother's house, perfect for a fire pit. Coco was about to say yes, but her grandmother's eyes snapped open. "Are you trying to burn my house down?" Her voice was calm, but her eyes held a heavy weariness, a mix of helplessness and despair. The people who came before had been rude, but none had ever done anything drastic. Was this time? As she was thinking, she saw Leo shake his head vigorously. "Ma'am, you're overthinking it. This house is yours. No one would dare burn it." Just as they were speaking, a few more men walked over. The old woman seemed to know them. She closed her eyes again, intending to ignore them. "Coco, I brought you some snacks. Come and get them." The man in the lead wore an eager smile, as if he knew the old woman and her granddaughter well. His hands were full of bags, clearly gifts for them. Coco, who had just been teased by Leo, was still hiding behind her grandmother. She peeked at the bag of snacks a few times but didn't dare to take it. "I'll just leave them here for you," the man said, placing the bags on the steps. He was careful not to get any closer. He then noticed Leo sitting nearby. "Oh, we have a guest today." Leo smiled and nodded in greeting. The man didn't ask who Leo was. He offered him a cigarette, then turned to the old woman. "Granny, this might be the last time I come here." At his words, the old woman finally opened her eyes. They were framed by deep wrinkles, full of a world-weary seen it all. The man was about to light his cigarette, but when he saw Coco behind the old woman, he stopped himself. He even reached over and plucked the lit cigarette from his companion's mouth, tossing it on the ground. "Coco's here. What the hell are you doing smoking?" The other man gave an embarrassed laugh and waved his hand. Sorry, Ace. I'll be careful next time." "That's more like it," Ace grumbled, before turning back to the old woman with a grin. "Granny, where were we?" The old woman didn't know what game Ace was playing this time. She remained silent, just watching him. Leo's first impression of Ace was that of a punk. He looked and acted like a street thug, cocky and disrespectful. But underneath it all, there seemed to be a sliver of decency. When the old woman didn't respond, Ace didn't get angry. He scratched his head and continued. "Granny, I heard from my boss today. The higher-ups are planning to build around you. They don't need your house anymore. You can just keep living here, and no one will come to bother you again." The more Ace spoke, the more complicated the old woman's expression became. All her neighbors were gone, and the two remaining households weren't friendly. Their kids often bullied Coco. The truth was, she had wanted to move for a long time. The compensation they offered was more than enough for her to live out her years and raise Coco. But someone had told her that if she held out, she could get more. The temptation was too great. She was old. She didn't care what people thought of her. They could call her a shameless old hag for all it mattered. But hearing Ace say they weren't demolishing her house anymore, she began to panic. If they really weren't, what would happen to Coco? "Why?" she finally asked. Ace shrugged, sitting down casually on steps. "Sigh." He sighed, holding the unlit cigarette to his nose and taking a sniff. He shook his head slowly. "We've been here so many times, always trying to be nice. You think I like this? You yell at me, I get pissed off too. The only reason I put up with it is because the big boss specifically told us to be gentle and patient. He even gave us extra money, called it hardship pay or something. I don't know if the boss has lost his mind, getting paid for putting up with insults." Leo, who was cracking sunflower seeds nearby, almost choked. He kept quiet and continued listening. "I heard from my boss that our leader is a capable man. He doesn't want to make things hard for you, but he can't deal with your outrageous demands either. So he asked for the design plans to be changed. I'm here today to let you know that the official notice will be out in 2 days. Think it over. If you change your mind, have Coco come find me." Ace spoke for a long time, looking genuinely frustrated. He stood up from his steps and patted the dust off his pants. As he was leaving, he glanced at Leo and said, deliberately loud enough for all to hear, "Granny, I don't know why you suddenly changed your mind after we had a deal and you agreed to sign. I'm not going to ask, but sometimes the only thing that's real is the profit in your hand. Everything else is just talk." Leo rubbed his nose sheepishly. This guy, Ace, was calling him out right to his face. He was an interesting character. Ace finished and walked away without looking back, grumbling about how much trouble this was and how he had to go get yelled at by the other two families. After Ace left, the old woman ignored Leo. With Coco's help, she struggled to her feet. Only then did Leo realize how frail she was, her steps unsteady. Even basic movements seemed to be a struggle. Leo sighed. He decided to leave. He could help her, even pay for Coco's education and living expenses. But there were too many pitiful people in the world. You couldn't help them all. The idea of a perfect world had been passed down for centuries, but no dynasty had ever achieved it. They say a good person takes care of themselves when poor and helps the world when successful. But helping the world wasn't so easy. Just being able to take care of oneself was a luxury. As Leo was about to leave, Coco turned to look at him. She was still curious about this big brother who had tricked her out of her sunflower seeds and claimed he liked to eat Coco. The old woman started to walk toward her house. Perhaps it was anemia or the shock of Ace's words, but she suddenly felt dizzy after sitting for so long. She took 2 steps and couldn't hold on any longer, staggering and collapsing. Coco was just a little girl. She couldn't possibly catch her. "Grandma!" Coco screamed, but it was no use. Leo wasn't far and heard the cry. He turned around just in time to see Coco's pleading eyes. She was sobbing, tears streaming down her face. Leo rushed over and called out to the old woman, but there was no response. He quickly pulled out his phone to call 911. At that exact moment, a swarm of reporters appeared out of nowhere. They didn't offer to help. They just started snapping photos of Leo and the unconscious woman. One reporter even pushed forward, shoving a microphone in Leo's face. "Mr. White, what are you doing here? Is this woman's sudden illness related to you? We hear you're in charge of this project. Did you intentionally harass her because she wouldn't sign the papers? Mr. White, do you have anything to say?" Coco had never seen anything like this. Her cries grew louder as she knelt by her grandmother, calling her name over and over. Leo realized he'd been set up. These reporters seemed to have been waiting for this exact moment. He ignored them, wiped Coco's tears, and asked gently, "Coco, did anyone else come to see your grandma today?" Coco was still sobbing, but she nodded. "MMM." Leo sighed and didn't ask any more questions. He'd wait for the paramedics. He didn't need to be a psychic to know that soon, news about him would be all over the internet again. While Leo was accompanying the old woman to the hospital, in a high-rise office building downtown, cheerful laughter could be heard all the way down the hall. "At first, I was just planning to use this to annoy him a little, control the narrative, and slow down his project," Grayson Goose said, a broad smile on his face as he sat in the main chair. "I never expected him to walk right into it himself." Richard Chien sat opposite him, calmly, sipping his tea. "Uncle Richard, what do you think?" Grayson continued. "If that old woman doesn't wake up, and we spin the story to say Leo threatened her in his signing and gave her a heart attack, wouldn't he be finished for good?" Richard didn't entirely agree with Grayson's thinking, but he nodded anyway. "You could try, but don't get your hopes up too high. Leo isn't that easy to deal with." Grayson just smiled. He knew that. He shook his head. "I'm not Jesse Jiang. I won't give him any chances." Richard fell silent. He had his own problems to deal with, and no energy to waste on Leo. Since Ethan Jiang's return, he seemed to be losing ground in the power struggle at the Jiang Corporation. But Richard felt there was more to it than met the eye. On top of that, the company's debt was a massive headache. He knew cutting his losses was the best option, but he was reluctant to let go of years of hard work. "Sigh, I have to go. You keep an eye on Leo. I hope this works out for you." Grayson didn't even look up, let alone get up to see him out. "Take care, Uncle Richard." After Richard left, Grayson sneered. "Just an ungrateful wolf. The Jiang Corporation you all worked so hard for will be mine." Muttering to himself, Grayson picked up the phone on his desk. "Release the news about the Mill District immediately," he ordered, "and get in touch with the hospital. Tell them." On the ambulance, Leo was comforting Coco. Her emotions had finally stabilized, but she still clung to her grandmother's hand. From the moment the reporters appeared, Leo knew this was a setup, but he wasn't too worried. This was a perfect opportunity to see who was pulling the strings. He had used similar tactics himself when he was going after the Hamlin Group, orchestrating conflict to his advantage. He was, of course, extremely careful about it. The area around the 3 remaining houses was blanketed with security cameras, which was why he had been reluctant to go inside any of them. If he had, and something happened, it would have been his word against theirs. Under the cameras, there was no ambiguity. The moment the incident occurred, Leo had contacted Hank, explained the situation, and told him to save the surveillance footage. He knew exactly what he had and hadn't done. He had barely spoken. Even when Ace had come by, he had spoken calmly. There was no aggressive behavior to be seen. As for the old woman, Leo couldn't hope for much. He just wished her a speedy recovery. When the ambulance arrived at the hospital, Leo went to pay the initial fees. His phone rang. "Leo, where are you? There's a ton of negative news about you online all of a sudden. They're saying you." It was Sophia. Livewire had grown into a major platform with over 1 million active users, and news traveled fast. Any hot topic was fiercely debated on the site. Sophia had set up keyword alerts in the backend system. Anytime news about Leo or his companies appeared, she was notified immediately. The moment she saw the story, she called him, worried about what was happening. Leo knew it was too complicated to explain over the phone, and knowing Sophia, she would be frantic until she saw him. He simply told her the name of the hospital and asked her to come. The old woman was in the emergency room. Leo and Coco waited outside. More and more reporters were showing up. Because it was a hospital, they were slightly more restrained. While he waited, Leo's phone wouldn't stop ringing. The news was spreading like wildfire. What the hell is going on? Is it like what they're saying online? Mr. Ho was the most frantic. And why wouldn't he be? If something happened to Leo, he would be held responsible. "I'll send you the surveillance footage from outside. It has nothing to do with me." Hearing there was video evidence, Mr. Ho relaxed slightly. "You can't just ignore the online chatter. You can't let this escalate. Deal with it quickly." Get the facts out there. After hanging up with Leo, Oh, look at the online news again. It had been less than an hour since the incident, and articles were already published. Someone was definitely fanning the flames. He thought for a moment and had someone call the hospital. If anyone contacts you asking about this elderly woman's condition and gives you any instructions, notify me immediately. Not long after Mr. Ho made the arrangements, the hospital called him back. I understand. In the hospital director's office, Dr. Chin took off his glasses and rubbed his temples. What a mess, he sighed. Your young protege is really something else. I'm getting calls from the state level. Across from him sat Ethan Jiang, who was also surprised. I really didn't know about this. I'll leave this matter in your hands. As for the person who just called you, let Leo deal with him. Dr. Chin was getting a headache. I can't afford to offend either side. You all can sort it out. I'm an old man. I can't take this kind of stress. After this is over, I don't know if they'll still do business with us. You know we import most of our medical equipment through their company. Ethan knew the old fox was asking for a favor. He didn't call him out on it, just smiled, telling me he's useless. Go talk to Leo. He's got the money. Dr. Chin considered this for a moment and nodded gravely. True. Leo sat outside the emergency room. When Sophia arrived, she saw Coco asleep on his lap. Seeing Leo, she breathed a sigh of relief. Are you okay? Who's this? Sophia's voice was soft, afraid of waking the child. Leo shrugged. A sweet kid. Sad story. The one in there is her grandmother. Her only family. Sophia fell silent and sat down next to him. Not long after, the doors to the emergency room opened. Coco woke with a start. Seeing the doctor, she scrambled to her feet and ran over. What are you going to do? The old woman was awake, so Leo had no reason to stay at the hospital. The smell of disinfectant was overwhelming. Outside the hospital entrance, Sophia linked her arm through his and asked him a question. The moment the grandmother had regained consciousness, reporters had rushed in to interview her. To her credit, she had a conscience. She told them Leo had nothing to do with it. But the media turned a deaf ear, convinced she'd taken a bribe from Leo to change her story. They mobbed Leo for a while, some even looking ready to get physical. If they could provoke him, they could blow the story up even bigger. Some reporters would do anything for a sensational headline, twisting facts and deliberately creating controversy. Luckily, hospital security arrived in time to disperse the crowd, and Leo managed to slip away with Sophia. You can't wake a person who's pretending to be asleep. Their goal was to cement the narrative that this was all Leo's fault. Hearing Sophia's question, Leo just shrugged. Didn't you notice how fast this story blew up? From incident to a full-blown online firestorm in just a few hours. Complaints and reports are flooding in. Anything I say right now is useless. I'll just wait for things to cool down a bit before I explain. As he spoke, he pulled out a small audio recorder. One of the department heads at the hospital had given it to him. Leo had been surprised to find that Ethan was there and had already smoothed things over for him. Sophia saw the recorder, but didn't ask. She just sighed. So this is what they mean by business is war? Leo didn't argue. Maybe it was. People would do anything for money. They say you shouldn't have the heart to harm others, but the next line is that you can't let your guard down. There weren't that many truly good people in the world. Leo had learned that lesson in his past life. From the moment he started Rush, he had been prepared to face all sorts of schemes. As the company grew, his name would become more famous, and the troubles would only increase. He didn't plan on telling Sophia any of this. What she wanted was a life of simple romance, with a touch of cozy surprise. After we graduate, we'll go traveling, he said. We'll buy an RV and drive all over the country. Sophia leaned into his embrace. I'll go anywhere, as long as I'm with you. Leo tapped her on the forehead, then pulled back. What do you want to eat? My treat. Sophia's eyes darted around. She tapped her chin thoughtfully. She began, then asked tentatively, how about, you cook for me? She immediately shook her head. Never mind. If Chloe finds out, she'll get all sour about it. Leo just blinked. It's fine. That surprised Sophia. She's with her dad right now, Leo explained. He transferred some shares to her name, and there's a lot of stuff they need to sort out. Sophia wasn't particularly interested in the affairs of the Jiang Corporation. She only knew a little because of Leo. Hearing this, her guilt vanished. Well, let's go then. She hailed a passing taxi. In a spacious kitchen, Leo stood at the stove, wearing an apron Sophia had tied for him. He was stir-frying vegetables. Sophia sat on a small stool nearby, her chin propped in her hands, just watching him. When he announced he was done, she sighed under her breath. Why so fast? Seeing Leo's confused look, Sophia burst out laughing. She stood up, walked over, and wrapped her arms around his waist from behind. If only every day could be like this. Leo put down the spatula, took her hands, and turned her around to face him. His eyes narrowed. Woman, are you trying to imprison me? Sophia smiled serenely, tracing circles on his chest with her finger. That's right. I'm imprisoning you. For life. Leo captured her hand. How cruel. Sophia giggled, leaning against his chest. Because I like you. I really, really like you. Leo stroked her hair. I know you do, but if you don't let go, the food's going to burn. Oh. Sophia quickly let go. We can't waste food. Hurry, hurry. Leo rolled his eyes, a mix of love and exasperation on his face. Dinner was for two, but washing dishes was a one-person job. Despite Sophia's earnest invitations for him to join, even promising some incredible rewards, Leo remained unmoved. He leaned against the kitchen doorway, watching her. Hurry up, are you ever coming out? Sophia ignored him. She was still a little miffed from being rejected so many times. She hummed a tune as she washed the dishes, pretending he wasn't there. Seeing her pouty, proud expression, Leo couldn't resist. He walked over and gave her a playful swat on the behind. She didn't make a sound, just turned her head and glared at him. Oh, Leo chuckled. Still not convinced? He reached out and pinched her cheek. The texture was excellent. That made Sophia even angrier. She took the soapy sud from her hands and smeared them on his face. Leo couldn't dodge in time, and she succeeded. Seeing his comical expression, Sophia finally laughed. You pervert. See if you dare to misbehave again. Leo smirked. Misbehave? I'll show you what real misbehaving is. Without a second thought, he scooped her up from behind. It didn't matter how much she kicked. He carried her all the way to the bedroom. They hadn't moved in yet, but the apartment was fully furnished. Sophia and Chloe had already prepared sheets and blankets, though they weren't on the bed. That was no problem for Leo. He locked the door behind them. Sophia wasn't panicked at all. She just kept laughing. It was only when Leo pulled the bedding from the closet and tossed it at her that she stopped. Get up. Make the bed. Sophia didn't move. She just pulled the comforter over herself and closed her eyes. I'm asleep. Don't disturb me. She even let out a fake snore for effect. After a moment of silence, she must have wondered what was going on. She cracked open one, eyed a peek at Leo, and met his gaze. She quickly shut it again. Leo stifled a laugh. He walked to the side of the bed. If you don't get up, I'm switching rooms. Sophia stretched lazily and opened her eyes. What did you say? Make the bed. Okay. Sophia was surprisingly efficient at making the bed. She was clearly good wife material, just a little too mischievous. Leo decided he couldn't let her out to wreak havoc on the world. He'd have to take one for the team. A true humanitarian. As soon as she finished, Leo wrapped his arms around her from behind. She squirmed a little. I haven't finished the dishes yet. Leo nibbled on her earlobe. And you're talking to me about dishes. Now, what? Sophia said matter-of-factly. She hooked her arms around his neck. If I don't wash them, are you going to? Leo froze for 2 seconds, then released her. I'm going to take a shower. I'll be waiting for you. He patted her cheek as he left, completely uninhibited. That surprised even Leo. Shouldn't you be covering your eyes and yelling pervert like a shy maiden? Sophia just urged him on. Hurry up. I'm waiting for the show. Leo tossed his jacket at her face. Even as he left the room, he could hear her bright, unrestrained laughter. He grinned and headed for the bathroom. There was a bathtub in the shower room. He had no idea who had bought it. Though he thought it was useless, that didn't stop him from filling it with water. When the time was right, he sank into it. Not long after Leo finished, Sophia came in. Under the heat lamp, her face was flushed, whether from shyness or the heat. It was hard to tell. The moment she opened the door, she grabbed a nearby towel and threw it at his eyes. Don't look. T13.She, Leo scoffed, turning his head away. Like I'm interested. He snuck a peek out of the corner of his eye. Seeing Sophia was about to do something, he quickly turned his head back, saying righteously, Okay, fine, I'm interested. Sophia just rolled her eyes and didn't try to stop him again. Right in front of him, she took off her hair tie. She tilted her head back slightly, and her waterfall of black hair cascaded down her back. She ran her fingers through it, then turned on the shower to adjust the temperature. Once it was just right, she wet her hair. It looked even more beautiful when wet. After washing her hair, Sophia wrapped it in a towel turban, a faint smile on her lips. A solo shower usually takes 10 minutes. This one took nearly an hour. They even had to change the water twice. It was nice. It would have been even nicer if Sophia's face wasn't so red. Do you think Chloe will be mad if she finds out we slept here tonight? In the bedroom, Leo lay on the bed, his eyes closed. Sophia was propped on her side, one hand supporting her head, the other tickling his face with a strand of her hair. Hearing her question, Leo didn't move. She won't know if we don't tell her. Sophia smiled. She leaned in, her nose touching his. So, when are you going to bring her here? Leo could feel the warm puff of her breath as she spoke. It tickled. He kept his eyes closed, his hand gently stroking her back. Who knows? Maybe tomorrow. The moment he said it, he felt a bite on his nose. It wasn't hard, didn't hurt, but he still yelped. What was that for? You almost bit my nose off. Sophia snorted. Good. If it gets broken, at least no one else will be thinking about you. Leo almost laughed out loud. He pretended not to understand, his hand moving to her waist and pulling her tight against him. Okay, turn off the light. Tom is asleep. I have a ton to do tomorrow. Sophia knew he was busy. She obediently turned off the light. MMM. A soft moan escaped her lips. It was like a signal, completely activating Leo. You said it. Tom is asleep. Just as his hand was about to make its next move, Sophia caught it. She buried her head in his chest, sounding a little vulnerable. Just take me. Leo froze. I am. Sophia shook her head. That's not what I mean. She was too embarrassed to say more. Leo patted her back. Why are you suddenly saying this? Sophia rubbed her head against his chest. I'm so tired, and I'm yours sooner or later anyway. Leo leaned down and kissed her cheek, giving it a gentle squeeze. My darling, the most beautiful, you should be saved for the most beautiful moment. Right now, I can't bear to. Sophia placed her hand on his face. Through the faint light from the window, Leo could see the incredible softness in her eyes. Leo, I'll always be yours. I can only ever be yours. Leo patted her cheek. That's a given. You think I'd ever let you go? He took the opportunity to make a mischievous move. Sophia let out a soft cry. You fiend. Leo ignored her. This is nice. Sophia let out a little yelp, then threw off the covers and dashed to the bathroom. Leo got up and followed her. He picked up his phone. A screen full of missed calls. The vast majority were from Chloe. Sophia was sound asleep. Leo glanced at her, then quietly slipped out of bed. He threw on a jacket and went out of the bedroom. There was a large balcony off the living room. Leo went out, leaning one hand on the railing and dialing Chloe's number with the other. Leo, where are you? Why weren't you answering your phone? Chloe's voice was edged with anxiety. Leo lit a cigarette, blew out a ring of smoke, and said slowly, I was handling something. By the way, did your dad leave? Chloe was lying on her dorm bed, her head buried under the covers. She spoke in a whisper, afraid of waking her roommates. Yeah, he left after going over a few things with me. Oh, he told me to give you full access to all the financials. Can you come with me to the office tomorrow? I'll have the finance department connect with you directly. While he was abroad, Ethan had told Leo that once he got his affairs in order back home, he wanted Leo to set up a new company to compete with the Jiang Corporation. Ethan would handle all the channels and resources. Leo just needed to provide the name. That was the reason for Ethan's visit. Leo nodded. I'll pick you up in the morning. What do you want for breakfast? I'll bring it. Chloe thought for a moment. Just some oatmeal is fine. Okay, get some sleep. It's late. Leo was about to hang up, but Chloe was clearly reluctant. She changed the subject. By the way, I saw on the news today that Sophia wasn't the only one who followed news about Leo and Rush. But Chloe's sources weren't as good as Sophia's, so she was always a little behind. It felt good to be cared for. A small smile touched Leo's lips. It's a small problem. I'll handle it. Hearing him say it was fine, Chloe was reassured. For some reason, she had an unshakable faith in him. Still, she said softly, don't put too much pressure on yourself at business. It can be handled slowly. The wind outside was cold, making him shiver, but Leo felt a strange warmth in his heart. Chloe was like this, and so was Sophia. He couldn't resist teasing her. I have to put pressure on myself. I need to save up for a ring, you know. Chloe fell silent. After a moment, she said, it's not like the ring is a requirement. I don't mind if you're poor. Hearing that, Leo couldn't help but laugh. You said it. Remember that. If I'm ever broke one day, you can't shut the door on me. I won't. Chloe retorted quickly. Their conversation was becoming more and more like the late-night whispers of a young couple. Leo had only intended to say a few words to reassure her, but they ended up talking for half an hour. The wind was freezing. Suddenly, he felt a jacket being draped over his shoulders from behind. The footsteps were so light he hadn't even noticed. He turned around after the jacket was settled. In the dim light, he could only see Sophia yawning as she headed back to the bedroom. What was that? Chloe asked from the other end of the line. Nothing, Leo replied. Hey, when do you think we should move? It's a pain trying to talk on the phone in the dorms, always having to be so quiet. After he said that, he could hear Chloe's breathing quicken on the other end of the line. He wasn't sure what she was thinking. After a moment of silence, she asked tentatively, how about tomorrow? Leo saw no problem with that. Sure, After we finish our business tomorrow, we can all head over together. Okay, Chloe replied eagerly, then added, let's bring Sophia too. Leo watched Sophia disappear into the bedroom and nodded. Of course. The next morning, the sky was just beginning to lighten. Leo pulled back the curtains. A thick fog blanketed everything outside. He went to the kitchen, fried an egg, and then went to wake Sophia. Time to get up. You have class later. Sophia rubbed her eyes and held out her arms. The message was clear, carry me. Leo walked over and scooped her up. Her hair was messy, her lips in a pout, her eyes still closed. She leaned lazily against him. Are we going to have to strip the bed and put the sheets away? Leo stroked her hair. No, just leave it. Sophia said nothing more. She stretched her body. Good morning, Mr. White. As we'll be living under the same roof from now on, I'll be in your care. She even held out her hand formally. Leo shook it. I'll be in your care as well, Ms. Sue. Now let's go, time to eat. You're going to be late. Sophia woke up quickly, with no morning grogginess. 1 second she was half asleep. The next, she was full of energy. She threw on some clothes and pushed Leo toward the living room. Their breakfast was simple, oatmeal and fried eggs. It was quick. I just checked, Sophia said. The story blew up overnight. A lot of people are attacking you online. Of course, some are defending you, saying things like the truth isn't always what it seems on the surface. Leo was unconcerned. I'll deal with it slowly. Whoever is doing this just wants to snatch resources from me. I'm just curious to see who it is. Seeing his confidence, Sophia didn't say any more. If Leo had it under control, that was all that mattered. After breakfast, she didn't make a fuss. She went straight to the kitchen and washed the dishes. They had already agreed. From now on, if they lived together, Leo would cook, Chloe would wash dishes, and she would do the grocery shopping. Since Chloe wasn't here, she had to do the dishes. Once everything was done, they left for campus. Leo was now a celebrity at the university. The moment he stepped on campus, he was recognized. Hey, Leo. Regardless of their year, students now greeted him respectfully. Sometimes, titles had nothing to do with age. Morning, Leo. Hey, I heard the Mill District project is yours, too. That's awesome. When Leo was in the cafeteria buying oatmeal for Chloe, a few girls came up to him, their eyes shining with undisguised admiration. You think so? Leo asked, then answered his own question. I think so, too. But if you could find a boyfriend as rich as Chloe, you could be this awesome, too. He walked away, leaving the group of girls staring at each other, confused. What did he mean by that? One girl figured it out and burst out laughing. He means he's a gold digger, and we shouldn't fall for him. That he has no talent of his own. Leo was standing under the awning of Chloe's dorm building, about to pull out his phone, when a voice drifted down from above. Asshole. The voice was crisp, sweet, and melodious, a pleasure to hear despite the word. Leo glanced up and met Chloe's gaze. She was already dressed and ready, looking like she'd been waiting for him. You coming down, or what? Leo called, holding up the bag of breakfast he'd brought. Coming, she called back before disappearing from the window. Her shout had turned a few heads. When the other students saw it was Leo, their curiosity faded into understanding. Yeah, that tracks. A moment later, Chloe emerged, a vision of effortless winter style. She wore a sky blue overcoat over a white sweater, a scarf wrapped snugly around her neck, and gloves on her hands. Dark blue jeans completed the look, giving her an air of pure, simple beauty. She walked right up to Leo and looped her arm through his, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, her eyes crinkling into a happy slit. Let's go. I want to ride in your new car, she declared. A faint, pleasant fragrance wafted from her, something unidentifiable that Leo found he quite liked. He reached out and playfully ruffled her hair, earning a soft protest. You messed it up. Her hair was silky smooth, and she had intentionally styled it with 2 small braids framing her face, her wispy bangs a perfect complement to her stunning features. So what if it's messy? It's not like I haven't seen your hair messy before. At his words, a memory seemed to surface, and a faint blush crept onto her cheeks. She quickly turned her head away. Let's just go, let's go. Leo's Porsche Cayenne was in the campus lot, a short walk from the women's dorms. With final exams approaching, the campus was already buzzing with early rising students. As they settled into the car, Chloe munching on a snack from the bag, she watched the groups of students clutching textbooks on their way to the library. You've barely been to class this semester, have you? She asked, a note of genuine concern in her voice. What are you going to do about finals? Are you seriously going to fail your first semester of college? Leo had never been to college in his previous life. This was a first. But when it came to exams, he felt utterly powerless. Well, if it comes to it, we could go have a chat with the university president, he said nonchalantly. Worst case scenario, I'll donate a new library to the school next year. Chloe shot him an exasperated look. Other alumni donate libraries to leave a legacy or give back to the school. And you? You do it just to avoid failing a class. Leo kept his eyes on the road, his expression dead serious. Hey, problems that can be solved with money aren't really problems. And it's not like I don't have the resources. Chloe let out a sudden laugh. If you've got so many resources, then why were you telling people you needed to find a rich girl like Chloe Jiang this morning? Leo froze. How had what he'd said just a few hours ago already reached her? Seeing his confusion, Chloe explained, "Someone sent it to me. The campus forum is blowing up about it." Thinking of the comments mocking Leo, she felt a surge of anger on his behalf. You know, you could explain everything. Everything you have now is the result of your own hard work. Leo, however, was unfazed. He even sounded perplexed. Hard work? Which how did you use to see me working hard? Was it the part where I sleep late and wake up later, or the part where I'm busy making out with you? Chloe winced at his phrasing, but couldn't refute it. Thinking back, it really did seem like Leo had achieved everything without breaking a sweat. Her brows furrowed. You know, I'm just now realizing how punchable your face is, you jerk. Leo's expression remained calm as he changed the subject. Did you bring any money? Yeah, Chloe said, pulling out her wallet and counting the cash. I have about $1,000 in cash. You need it? Yep, Leo nodded, holding out a hand. Give it to me. Without a second thought, she handed it over. In her mind, what was hers was Leo's. There was no need to draw lines. Leo took the wallet and casually tucked it into his jacket pocket. Then, he pulled the Kian over to the side of the road and killed the engine. He turned to her, his eyes narrowed like a predator. I'm going to give you one more chance to rephrase that, he said, his voice dangerously low. If you say something I don't like again, I'm leaving you right here. Chloe was completely stunned. They were in the middle of nowhere with nothing in sight. And to make matters worse, he had her wallet. If he really left her here, I'm sorry I was wrong. Her apology was swift and seemingly sincere. But Leo wasn't letting her off that easily. Oh, he said, a flicker of amusement in his eyes. And what were you wrong about? Chloe looked at him with wide, pitiful eyes. I shouldn't have said you looked like you needed a good one, she said, her voice laced with hurt. You're so kind and likable. How could anyone ever want to punch you? Leo reached out and pinched her cheek. She didn't resist, just stared at him with those big, expressive eyes. The space in the Kian's center console wasn't as wide as the Land Rover's. With a slight stretch, his hand could easily rest on her leg. Black or nude stockings? You choose. Chloe blinked, looking torn. But when she met Leo's unwavering gaze, she asked meekly, maybe. You could choose. Then let's try both. She said nothing, which Leo took as a yes. A short skirt with stockings was a perfect look for a cold winter day. At least he thought so. And he was pretty sure Chloe did, too. When Ethan Jiang had visited the day before, he'd already arranged for his people to handle the asset transfer. All it required was Chloe's signature. The finance heads of those companies were currently staying at Leo's hotel. Business had been good lately, with high occupancy rates. As Leo pulled up to the entrance, a doorman rushed over to open the door. Mr. White, the man greeted with a professional smile, recognizing him immediately. Thanks, Leo said, handing him the keys. The doorman would take care of parking. Just as Leo was leading Chloe into the hotel lobby, he heard a surprised voice call out from behind him. Leo. Leo and Chloe turned in unison. Chloe, a woman gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. She looked from Leo to Chloe, then up at the Grand Hotel sign, her expression shifting from surprise to shock. Are you two here to get a room? Leo studied the short-haired woman, racking his brain. He was sure she was a high school classmate. What was her name? Gina something? Gina, Chloe said, her face lighting up with genuine delight before his did. What are you doing here? I thought you were going to school in L. The name clicked for Leo. Right, Gina Zhao. A mischievous, gossipy grin spread across Gina's face as she hurried over and grabbed Chloe's arm. The two had been close in high school, so the gesture wasn't awkward at all. Forget about me. Tell me what you two are doing here. A man of about 30 who had been with Gina walked over. Gina, you know them? Gina nodded. Yeah, high school classmates. I was on call them a day or two to meet up. I can't believe we ran into each other here. Chloe felt like she should offer some kind of explanation, but after a moment's thought, she decided it wasn't necessary. Gina, what brings you to Riverbend? And this is? She asked, her gaze flicking curiously to the man beside her. Gina let go of Chloe's arm and moved to her companion's side, linking her arm with his affectionately. This is my brother, Alex. We're here for a business deal, and I just tag along for fun. Our university is already on winter break. Hearing the words, winter break, Leo let out an involuntary sigh. Must be nice. His comment earned a sharp eye roll from Chloe. Does it really make a difference to you whether you're on break or not? Leo considered it. She had a point, but he wasn't about to admit that. He offered a token protest. Don't say that. I'm a very dedicated student. Gina covered her mouth, stifling a laugh. The way she looked at Leo and Chloe was becoming more and more suspicious. If she remembered correctly, over the summer, it had seemed like Sophia, Sue, and Leo were the ones getting close. Though her mind was buzzing with questions, Gina held her tongue. Her brother, Alex, gently prompted her. Gina, we should head up. They're waiting for us in the conference room. You two can catch up later. They probably have things to do. As Alex looked at Leo, a flicker of envy crossed his eyes. A guy knows a guy, bringing a girl this beautiful to a hotel. The implications were obvious. Any man would be envious. But it was just envy. He was composed enough to hide it. Gina stuck out her tongue and didn't press further. She just squeezed Chloe's arm. I'll call you. We'll get dinner later. Chloe smiled and nodded. Gina took 2 steps, then suddenly turned back, her eyes narrowed in a playful, knowing expression. Be safe, you two. Huh. Chloe was still processing the comment when Leo's voice cut in, smooth and confident. Okay, I will. Gina froze for a second before her brother grabbed her by the sleeve and practically dragged her toward the elevator. What did she mean by that? Chloe asked, a blush coloring her cheeks. Leo shrugged. Who knows? Maybe she was telling us to drive safely. Come on, everyone's waiting for you. This hotel, formerly part of the Hamlin Group's portfolio, had been acquired by Leo. It stood 18 stories tall. The top floor was the penthouse suite with the sky garden where Chloe had once stayed. Below that, in addition to guest rooms, were conference rooms, game rooms, and restaurants. The conference facilities alone took up 2 full floors, far more than he needed for his own use. The main idea was to lease them out for corporate meetings, training sessions, and events. Chloe had reserved one for today. Before they had even set out, she had contacted the key personnel from her father's companies. They were already waiting in the conference room. When Leo and Chloe opened the door, everyone in the room rose to their feet in unison. They only sat down after Chloe had taken her seat at the head of the table. Leo discreetly took the seat just to her right, careful not to steal the spotlight. I assume my father has already spoken with all of you, Chloe began. In a formal setting, she showed no trace of the girlish shyness she displayed with Leo. Instead, she projected an aura of natural authority. The people below her nodded. Mr. Jiang told us to follow your lead. Chloe took a sip from the bottle of water on the table. I'd like to introduce you all to Leo White, she continued. You can call him Mr. White. Most of the people in the room already knew of Leo, not because of his own accomplishments, but because of the persistent rumor that he was the likely future son-in-law of Ethan Jiang. I need you to provide him with a copy of your resources, funding channels, and the latest financial data, Chloe instructed. I'll post his email address on the company's internal network. A murmur rippled through the room. People began whispering amongst themselves. One man spoke up, his tone laced with doubt. Chloe, does Mr. Jiang know about this? The information Chloe was talking about, resources, finances, was the lifeblood of a company. It was top secret. Even if Chloe was now the nominal owner, it was hard for them to accept. After all, everyone present knew that this was just a stopgap measure devised by Ethan. Chloe didn't bother explaining. She simply dialed Ethan's number in front of everyone and put the call on speaker. You'd better handle this, she said into the phone. Ethan's voice came through, as calm and steady as ever, as if he had anticipated this very moment. Chloe's wishes are my wishes, he stated clearly. I thank you all for your years of dedication to the Jiang Corporation. In time, I will ensure you are all taken care of. For now, your job is to give Mr. White your full and unconditional cooperation. And this conversation stays between us. His final words were a clear warning. Don't ask what you're not supposed to ask. It's enough that you know. Don't let it spread. The people in this room were Ethan's most trusted confidants. They would never question his word. They immediately voiced their agreement. But now, their curiosity was piqued even more. What exactly was Leo planning that required such a massive mobilization? And what was the real relationship between him and Chloe? Was it really, as the rumors claimed, official? But Leo's reputation wasn't exactly stellar. How could Ethan Jiang have possibly agreed to it? 1,000 questions swirled in their minds, but they were destined to remain unanswered. Leo smoothly took the microphone. Mr. Jiang has given his instructions. After this meeting, please send me the files Chloe mentioned. If I need anything else, people or money, I will contact you individually. I expect your unconditional support. Ethan's plan was for Leo to build a new Jiang corporation from the ground up. The core team was sitting right here in this room. It wasn't the time or place to lay out the full details. Leo would have to contact them one by one later. Of course, Leo had no intention of handling such tedious work himself. That was a job for Faye. She had already completed her resignation from the old company and was ready to start a moment's notice. With Ethan's direct order, the executives had no further objections and readily agreed. With the matter settled, the meeting concluded. Leo thoughtfully arranged for their lunch. It was his hotel. After all, a meal was the least he could do. After everyone had left, Leo slumped into his chair and looked at Chloe. You know, you're the only reason I'm willing to be the public face of this company, the legal representative. He wasn't lying. Being the legal rep for someone else's company carried enormous risks. If it weren't for Chloe, he never would have agreed. Chloe knew this. She didn't care if it was appropriate or not. She stood up, walked over to him, and straddled his lap, her arms wrapping around his neck. She leaned in close, her lips brushing his ear, and whispered something only he could hear. A wide grin spread across Leo's face. Now, that's more like it. Clearly, he was very satisfied with her method of repayment. The meeting had been brief, no grand plans or detailed assignments, just a simple set of instructions. From start to finish, it took less than an hour. As Leo and Chloe left the conference room, they could hear the faint sound of voices from adjacent rooms. They paid it no mind and headed for the elevators. Just as they were about to reach the elevator bank, the door to one of the conference rooms burst open. Two people stormed out, their faces flushed with anger. It was Gina and her brother, Alex. The first impression Leo had of Alex was that he was a mild-mannered man. Now, his face was beet red with fury. "Son of a bitch," he muttered, walking and cursing. "What a piece of work. Go to hell, you bastard." Beside him, Gina was silent, her head bowed low. Tears seemed to cling to her eyelashes. She had clearly been wronged. Seeing them, Chloe rushed over. "What's wrong?" Gina looked up at Chloe, then quickly lowered her head again, shaking it stubbornly. It's nothing." Alex was startled to see Leo and Chloe still there. He managed to rein in his emotions, his breathing still ragged, but at least he'd stopped swearing. Just then, a voice boomed from the conference room they'd just left. "The domestic market for mobile phones is already saturated. Everyone knows it's a big pie. So who's willing to share it? I'm offering to let your sister marry my brother." "What? Is that an insult to you? If she marries him, you get half of the distribution rights for the tri-state area. You're still not satisfied." The man in the room was clearly furious, probably thinking the Zhaos were being ungrateful. Leo had a faint memory of Gina. Her family was well off. Over the summer, he'd convinced her to try selling clothes at a street stall, and her father had driven her there. He recalled her family was in the mobile phone sales business. The man, not finished, stormed out of the room. "Alex Zhao, if my younger brother didn't like your sister, you think I'd even give you this chance?" So, Gina's brother was named Alex Zhao. Leo filed the name away. Alex sneered. "Anything else is negotiable. This, not a chance. Do you have any idea how old Gina is? Are you even human?" "How old?" the man scoffed. "She's 19. 10 years ago, she'd be a mother by now." Gina's face was pale. She grabbed her brother's arm before he could retort. "Alex, let's just go." Alex shot the man one last glare and nodded. "Fine." Leo had pieced together the gist of it. He glanced at Gina. He never would have guessed the girl had this much pull. Someone was willing to trade half a region's mobile phone distribution rights for her hand in marriage. In this era, selling phones was incredibly profitable, especially when you bundled them with phone cards loaded up with ringtones and other services. And this Alex guy was impressive. He hadn't caved. Leo had no intention of getting involved. It wasn't his area of expertise. The new Jiang Corporation had no related business. Even if he wanted to help, he couldn't. "Come on," Leo said, stepping forward. "It's almost noon. Let me buy you two lunch." He couldn't help with much else, but he could certainly treat them to a meal. Gina took a deep breath, composing herself, and managed a strained smile. "Well, in that case, I won't be polite." "It's nothing," Leo said, patting his chest. "By the way, who was that guy?" Seemed pretty full of himself. Once they were inside the elevator, Leo finally asked. Alex's face was grim. "Gavin Gu. He's one of the Gu family's young masters." Hearing the name, Gu, Leo's expression became intrigued. "The Gu family, as in Grayson Gu and Rosalyn Gu's family?" he asked, wanting to be sure. Alex looked surprised that Leo knew those names. "Yes, but Gavin is nothing compared to those two. You know them?" "I do," Leo nodded. A flicker of hope ignited in Alex's eyes. "Really? Could you introduce me?" Realizing he might be coming on too strong, he quickly added, I'll pay you a fee you'll be more than satisfied with. Leo just sighed and shook his head. Alex grew anxious. What is it? Is it inconvenient? It's not that, Leo said bluntly. It's just that you probably can't afford my fee. As he spoke, the elevator doors opened onto the restaurant floor. The lobby manager was already waiting, bowing slightly. Mr. White, your table is ready. Please follow me. Mr. White. Alex was even more astonished. When he first saw Leo and Chloe, he hadn't thought much of it, just envied Leo for having a beautiful girlfriend. Now, it was clear there was more to him. He nudged his sister. Gina understood. She slowed her pace, creating a little distance between them and Leo's group. All I know is that Leo started his own business over the summer, she whispered. He founded Rush Sportswear. I have no idea what he's been up to since starting college. Alex's mind was reeling. Leo and Gina were classmates, which meant he was barely 20. How had he built such a massive company? The facts were right in front of him, though, so he had to accept it. He glanced at Leo and Chloe, who were walking ahead, whispering affectionately to each other. It started to make sense. That girl is your high school classmate too, right? He asked. She's so beautiful. Is she with him because he's rich? What are you talking about? Gina cut him off before he could finish. Her last name is Jiang, as in the Jiang Corporation. Alex blinked, confused. Gina sighed. Yes, the Jiang Corporation you're thinking of. Ethan Jiang is her father. And don't be fooled. Even though she's an heiress, she never puts on airs with her classmates. Alex was getting more and more lost. Rush Sportswear, the Jiang Corporation. Why didn't you tell me you had these kinds of connections? A student might not care, but at a certain age, one starts thinking about how to monetize resources. In Alex's view, as their classmate, Gina should have been leveraging that connection. For example, by asking for an introduction to the Goose siblings. Gina just shrugged. Come on, they're waiting for us. Alex looked up and saw that Leo and Chloe had reached the door of a private room and were holding it for them. Mr. White, Alex began, his tone pleading. I still have to ask. Could you please help me get an introduction to those two from the Goof family? It was clear how desperately he wanted those distribution rights. Leo looked helpless. The Goof family. As of yesterday, they were trying to completely destroy my reputation. So what do you think? Alex's mouth fell open. He never would have expected that twist, right? Leo had said he knew them, not that he was on good terms with them. Gina quickly apologized. I'm so sorry, Leo. My brother didn't know. Leo waved his hand dismissively. It's fine. Business is business. I'll make a call and ask for you. After seating the siblings, Leo dialed Rosalyn, Goo's number right there in front of them. As it happened, he had his own reasons for wanting to talk to her. Mr. White, to what do I owe the pleasure of a call at this hour? Hearing Rosalyn, Goo's languid tone, Leo glanced at the time. It was past 11. That was odd. I was suddenly struck with the desire to treat Ms. Goo to lunch. Would you grace me with your presence? Rosalind was silent for a second, clearly surprised. Did the sun rise in the west today? She purred. Leo didn't mind her teasing tone in the slightest. The Apex Hotel. Are you coming or not? I'm coming. After Leo hung up, it wasn't just Alex and Gina who were stunned. Even Chloe was looking at him with wide, incredulous eyes. When did you get so close to her? She asked, her voice dripping with acid. Isn't her family constantly trying to take you down? Leo poured her a glass of water before answering. Her family is her family. She is she. It's not the same. The moment he finished speaking, he saw Chloe's lower lip jut out in a pout. She stared at him with pitiful, wounded eyes. He reached over and gently stroked her hair. The word interest can sometimes connect two people who would otherwise have nothing to do with each other, he explained softly. With her and me, even if we had a relationship, it could only be one of mutual interest. You can rest assured that the day our interests no longer align, we'll turn on each other faster than anyone. I'm very clear on that point. He glanced at her meaningfully. After all, a pure relationship like ours is a rare thing these days. Chloe shook her head, dislodging his hand, but her pout remained. But didn't you say she was probably the one behind that incident? She was referring to the winter formal, when Leo had taken Sophia. They had been deliberately pushed on stage, and the subsequent media reports had done serious damage to both Leo's and Rush Sportswear's reputations. Damage they still hadn't fully recovered from. Leo's eyes grew thoughtful. One thing at a time. After that, she did help me out with a few small things. Besides, we still don't know for sure if it was her. Thinking back, Rosalind had returned from abroad just before the winter formal. Her first public appearance had been at that very event. It was all too convenient. The university's prestige wasn't nearly enough to attract a heavyweight like her. And, coincidentally, A string of troubles had started for Leo right after that night. He didn't believe for a second that she was completely uninvolved. However, when he was dealing with Enjoy Sportswear, she hadn't interfered. In fact, she'd even subtly pushed things in his favor, which had been a small help. He couldn't figure her out. He had a theory, but it was just a theory. He needed to test it. Since Rosalyn was coming, Leo didn't rush to have the food brought out. Alex didn't mind waiting. He just sat in the private room, feeling much more reserved. Both Leo and Chloe, despite their youth, clearly held a higher social standing. It was a common phenomenon. People who were confident and talkative around their peers would often feel an unconscious sense of inferiority when faced with someone clearly more powerful. That's how Alex felt right now. In contrast, Gina was much more relaxed. They were high school classmates, after all, and had been on good terms. She was busy chatting with Chloe. Chloe, so what's the deal with you and Leo now? Every girl loves gossip, and Gina was no exception. She still remembered Leo and Sophia getting cozy during their camping trip. That wasn't so long ago. Gina's voice was a whisper, audible only to Chloe. But she didn't get an answer. Chloe glanced at Leo, her expression a complex mix of helplessness, dependence, and love. Chloe said, her hands propping up her chin. Her voice was serene. Barring any accidents, my life is pretty much ruined by him. She said it as if it were the most normal thing in the world, but to Gina's ears, it was a bombshell. As a classmate, she knew how proud Chloe was. A few months ago, Leo had confessed to her and been flatly rejected. Now, in such a short time, things had changed so dramatically. Gina couldn't help but wonder how Leo had pulled off. And she was curious about something else. What about Sophia? She hadn't heard anything about her for a while. She had no idea if Chloe knew how close Leo and Sophia had once been. She couldn't ask directly, so she tried to feel out the situation. Chloe, don't we have a few other classmates from high school studying around here? Are you still in touch? I was thinking we could all get together in the next couple of days. Chloe pulled Leo into the conversation. I don't know. You? She asked him. Besides Sophia, what other high school classmates are in the area? Leo looked completely baffled. He could count the number of high school classmates he could still name on one hand. And she was asking him? He shook his head vigorously. Do I look like I would know? Gina giggled beside them, but she managed to shoot Chloe a quick glance. Chloe just called Sophia, so casually. It sounded like they were close. She looked over at Leo, who was absorbed in his phone. This guy, she thought. He's trouble. Big trouble. Leo was texting Laura Ian. Since he'd invited Rosalyn, he might as well invite Laura, too. They seemed to be more familiar with each other. Having someone to talk to would make things less awkward for Rosalyn. Laura was much faster than Rosalyn. She walked into the private room, paused when she saw the extra guests, then took a seat next to Chloe. Laura, you're here. Chloe greeted her, pouring her a glass of water. Laura nodded and thanked her politely. She must have been thirsty, because she drank the entire cup in one go. Then she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. See? Chloe is so nice. Not like some people who treat us working stiffs like we're at their beck and call. Can't even be bothered to pour a glass of water. Leo looked confused. Laura, who are you talking about? I'll condemn him for you. Laura had been in the middle of company business when Leo had summoned her, claiming he was entertaining an important client. She dropped everything and rushed over. But Alex Zhao looked nothing like an important client. Hearing Leo's teasing only fueled her irritation. Certain unscrupulous bosses should feel free to take the hint. Chloe was laughing beside them. It was rare to see Leo on the back foot. Laura wasn't done. She turned to Chloe. Chloe, what's so good about this guy? Why don't you dump him and be with me? Leo was completely floored. Was this really Laura? What kind of bold, audacious thing was that to say? He cleared his throat. Laura, maybe a little more subtlety? He coughed. Forget about Chloe. I'll introduce you to someone big later. Big? Laura asked, intrigued. What's big? Her ego. Leo shot back. Chloe burst out laughing. He's talking about Rosalyn Gu, Leo explained. Laura, you know her, right? Rosalyn Gu? Hearing the name, Laura slapped her forehead. Is it too late for me to leave? Too late. Rosalyn's cheerful voice preceded her as she swept into the room. Laura, darling, all I did was try to poach you from Mr. White. Do you really have to be so scared of me? Laura sighed dramatically. The temptation you offer is just too great. I'm afraid if we talk anymore, my heart might actually be swayed. Rosalind ignored her and turned to Leo with a smile. Mr. White, what are your orders for me today? Leo quickly stood up and pulled out the chair next to him. Ms. Gu, you've arrived. Please sit. We were just waiting for you. After Rosalind was seated, Leo patted Chloe's hand. She understood immediately, got up, and went to the door to ask the waiter to start bringing the food. Leo didn't waste any time. Ms. Goo, this is my friend, he said, gesturing to Alex. He's a great admirer of yours and has been dying to meet you. Since he's here in Riverbend, I thought we could all have a meal together. As he spoke, Leo watched Rosalyn's expression carefully. Just as he'd expected, she was clearly displeased with this kind of purposeful networking dinner. But she forced a smile. Oh, and this is... Alex quickly stood up. Ms. Goo, hello. My name is Alex Zhao, General Manager of Trident Communications. Trident Communications? Rosalind searched her memory and found no impression of the company. Still, she maintained her smile. Hello, Mr. Zhao. Alex was clearly about to say more, but Rosalind cut him off. Making a subtle gesture of apology, she picked up her phone. Mr. White, my apologies, she said to Leo, her tone regretful. I just received a message. I have a very urgent meeting to attend, so I must be going. She picked up her bag and stood up to leave, her performance utterly convincing. She just arrived, and now she wanted to leave? Leo wasn't having it. Ms. Goo, aren't you interested in hearing my next move? Your brother has been quite active recently, you know. Rosalind, who had almost reached the door, stopped dead in her tracks. She took 2 deep breaths to compose herself, then turned around with a radiant smile. Actually, it seems it's not that urgent after all. The speed of her transformation was a work of art, worthy of a master performer. Leo understood completely. This was how a true player operated. Just as Rosalind sat down again, the waiters began bringing in the dishes. Let's eat first, Leo said. Ms. Goo, please try our local specialties. We can talk after we've eaten. Rosalind didn't stand on ceremony. She was the first to pick up her chopsticks. After one bite, she showered the dish with praise. Not bad. Much better than what you get abroad. As if to prove her point, she immediately took another bite. Leo chuckled. I know you're just being polite, Ms. Goo, but sometimes polite words are the most comforting to hear. I'll do myself the disservice of taking you at your word. The Apex Hotel was a long-standing 5-star establishment in Riverbend. The facilities were top-notch, and the chefs were masters of their craft. Leo's comment was just false modesty. But Rosalind nodded seriously. It's good that you know it's just a platitude. I was worried you wouldn't be able to tell. Her words were sharp, but they didn't stop her from eating. Laura, you should eat too, she said, even gesturing to her. Is it not to your taste? Tell me what you want. I'll have your boss order it. Laura was the picture of grace, clearly trying to win back some face for Leo. Oh, it's perfectly to my taste. I was just thinking that, Ms. Goo, having spent so much time abroad, might not be used to authentic national cuisine. Rosalind smirked. Already defending your boss, are we? The back and forth at the table left the Zhao siblings feeling completely out of their depth. They had expected a conversation between titans to be a duel of sharp words and unyielding stances. But the more they listened, the more it sounded like a petty argument at a market. Unable to comprehend it, they decided to just focus on eating. After the meal was over and everyone was full, Leo wiped his mouth. He didn't care that there were outsiders present. He looked directly at Rosalind. Ms. Goo, what are your plans now that you're back in the country? Are you just going to quietly run your investment firm? Alex had just put down his chopsticks, but at these words, he quickly picked them up again and resumed eating, trying his best to look like he wasn't listening, though his ears were practically standing on end. He had seen Rosalind's dismissive attitude toward him. He knew she looked down on him. His plan had been to wait until after the meal, swallow his pride, and find a chance to talk to her privately. Maybe, for Leo's sake, she would agree. Now, the main event was between Leo and Rosalind. He knew his place was to stay quiet and out of the way. Rosalind took a sip of tea. After setting down the cup, she spoke slowly. What else would I do? Does Mr. White have a better opportunity for me? Or perhaps you pity a weak woman like myself and plan to let Laura come work for me? Seeing the topic turn back to her, Laura waved her hands dismissively. You two talk. This has nothing to do with me. Leave me out of it. Rosalind's attitude toward Laura surprised Leo. Ms. Goo, are you and Laura related? When they both shook their heads, Leo's voice rose. Then why are you so obsessed with her? If you're not related, are you into her? Laura, who had just taken a sip of tea, sprayed it across the table. She shot Leo a death glare. Watch what you say. Leo sheepishly rubbed his nose. Was that really the issue here? Rosalind leaned back in her chair and let out a cackling laugh. I've done my research. The only person around you who can truly get things done is Laura. Whether at Rush Sportswear or Silver Fur Capital, every project she has handled has, without exception, been a success. What do you say to that, little brother Leo? Leo shut her down immediately. Laura is off the table. Everything else is negotiable. For example, big sister. Rosalind covered her mouth, her giggles turning into a full-on cackle. "I'm done playing with you," she said, her tone shifting. "Tell me, what's your next move? If you don't do anything, you might really get taken out by my dear brother. Of course, if that day ever comes, I'll step in and tell him the long-lost brother he never knew he had." Leo had no idea how many of her words were true. He shook his head. "I'd rather it be you who finds me. For your sake, I'll make sure he gets a dignified exit."